Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto keeps his secrets from his teammates and friends part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. It was night time, and the full silver moon hung mysteriously overhead, casting pale rays upon the ground. It illuminated many dark streets and alleys in the small ninja village known as Konoha. It was springtime, the midnight air chilly, but not unbearably so. Leaves flew with the wind, and the soothing sound of slow-moving air dominated the night as much as shadows. A small boy, no older than 7, walked silently down an empty street. He was small and utterly chibyish. He could easily be mistaken as an innocent angel, with his golden-colored hair which shot up in a halo of spikes, his crystal-clear blue eyes that shone with an innocent light, and his rich and tan skin. His name was Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto was an orphan, knowing neither his mother nor father. Heck, he didn't even have any family whatsoever. He was basically alone. There was only one person who he knew, but it wasn't on a personal level. The Hokage, leader of their village, tended to drop in on the boy, and was the one responsible for giving him a home in a simple apartment where the blonde angel lived alone. The boy was always alone. The villagers who were older despised him greatly, and therefore taught their children to hate the boy as well, but for reasons unknown to many. Naruto had never done a thing to harm even a fly, yet he was hated more than any missing ninja could ever dream of being. He was hated for one simple reason: the Kyuubi. The nine-tailed fox that the Yondaime, Konoha's own Golden Flash, had sealed into the boy shortly after his birth at the price of his own life. The man's last request had been to treat Naruto as a hero, for it would be he that would bear the greatest burden for them. No one regarded him as a hero, merely as the demon that was inside him. Of course, Naruto knew nothing of his tenant, for all word of the fox's existence was ordered into silence by Sarutobi, the third Hokage who regained the reins after the Yondaime's heroic death. A small humming noise escaped the blonde hero as he tucked his hands in his pockets. The song he was humming was one he heard the other children singing, the "I'm a Little Teapot" song. A small smile was on his face, making the small whisker-like scars on his cheek look absolutely adorable. He was perfectly innocent. A rustling in the trees next to him caused him to stop both walking and humming as he innocently glanced at the trees. 3 dark shadows sped out from the tree and moved until they were right before him. Once they stopped, their forms were revealed. Before the boy stood 3 men dressed in black cloaks with the hood drawn up, completely hiding their features. "Demon child." The tallest of the 3 spat with great venom in his voice. "You die here and now for all your sins." The man continued, his low and quiet voice filled with disgust and rage, while the young boy looked up in terror. "This is for my brother who you slaughtered mercilessly." The whitest spat as he punched the small child with blinding strength and speed, successfully connecting with Naruto's tan cheek and sending him flying. A cry of pain escaped the blue-eyed demon container as he landed roughly on the solid ground while looking back at his attackers with fear visible in his eyes. The tallest appeared at the boy's side before the blonde could even blink, and kicked him forcefully in the stomach, causing the boy to become horribly winded as blood trailed down his chin. "You are worthless, scum!" The one who had remained silent sneered as he pulled out a vial and dumped its contents on the child. A scream of sheer pain escaped Naruto as the acid dumped callously on him began eating away at his flesh with a sickening sizzling noise as blood rushed from his opening skin. "Why?" He managed to croak out between cries, gasps, and sobs, as he tried in vain to remove the acid from his body with his hands, which too joined into the flesh being mutilated. "Because you are the one with the Kyuubi inside you. You are the demon who killed our friends and families. You who stole from us our beloved Yondaime. You vile son of a bitch." The tallest spat darkly as he glanced down at the blonde. "You are nothing," he concluded with a smirk in his voice. "Hey!" A voice from down the street caught their attention, causing the 3 to turn away from the spazzing and brutalized boy and look at the noise source. "What are you guys doing?" a voice demanded as a person rushed towards them, though a split second later the cloaked man vanished, leaving the blood lying in a pool of blood, though the acid was no longer there. "Oh my God!" the man who came down the street cried as he knelt down beside the now unconscious blonde and looking him over. "Poor kid," he stated sadly while noting the boy was still alive, though unconscious. He knew who Naruto was and wanted to hate him, but as he spied the innocent face marred by blood and tear stains, he knew he could not. "Let's get you fixed up," he muttered while scooping the child into his arms, silently thanking all the gods he knew that the boy was healing at an incredible rate. He stood and looked up at the sky, allowing the moon to illuminate his features. His eyes were a kind and deep brown, holding many things within their depth. His hair was brown and held up in a spiky ponytail. His most redeeming feature was a long scar over his nose. This man was a chunin and a teacher at the ninja academy. His name was Yumino Irika. 5 years later. A certain blonde teen was asleep in his bed in a small but cozy apartment lit by the sun glowing invigoratingly through his window. His limbs were sprawled out in every possible angle, and his sleep cap, which was a penguin, was perched lightly on his blonde tresses. A small amount of snoring exited the young teen as he dreamed about things only visible to himself. An annoying beeping suddenly sounded through the room, causing the teen to stir and slowly sit up with a yawn and a stretch. "Morning already?" he questioned aloud before opening one eye and glancing at his alarm clock. It was indeed morning, and time to get up. He slowly slid from his bed, stretching and stifling a yawn before he looked around at his spotless apartment. Blue eyes took in plain white walls, his simple bed, small table and chairs, tiny kitchenette, small living room and several bookcases, and 2 doors. One door led to the exterior of his home, while the other led to his small white bathroom. It was simple, it was small, it was clean, and it was his. He walked over to his window and slid his pale curtains to the side before opening the window. A gentle breeze greeted him as he took a deep breath. "Beautiful," he muttered to himself as a genuine smile graced his lips. Indeed, a deep voice echoed through his mind. "Good morning, Kyubi-san." The blonde silently greeted his companion, who had awoken in his mind that night 5 long years ago while he lay beaten and unconscious. "Morning," the fox said in return. "What are your plans for your academy test this morning?" the fox asked after a moment's silence. "Well, I think I should let myself flunk once more. The villagers would think something up if dead last were to pass this exam, even though it is my 3rd time." The blonde knowledgeably explained while knowing full well he could easily ace the whole test. He just simply liked to act like his mask. Konoha's #1 loudmouth, knuckle-headed idiot demon. "You do realize that you could kick all those sorry humans' asses if you pleased. After all, I haven't trained you for 5 years for nothing," the Kyubi stated while inwardly smirking. "But I suppose your mask is important, for it gives you an edge. After all, I know you have the strength and knowledge of high-level chunin, or a low-level jounin," the fox added smugly, proud of his handiwork while training his kit. "I know, but I'd rather not have the villagers growing suspicious, therefore I'll maintain my mask until I am forced to reveal my true self," the blonde explained, once more having gone through this discussion various times with the 9-tailed tenant residing in his stomach, who he could share thoughts with. With the last part silently said, the blonde walked over to his closet and pulled out his ridiculously bright orange jumpsuit. "I do love orange, but this is just outrageous," the blonde thought while the Kyubi merely chuckled in agreement. "Maybe once you become a ninja you could change your wardrobe to something more suitable while using the excuse that it was damaged beyond repair while doing solitary training," the fox suggested, causing his host to smile and nod, fully approving of that idea. He closed his closet door and walked into the bathroom, where he showered and went through his daily rituals before exiting the clean bathroom and heading over to the kitchenette. Once in his kitchen, he opened a random cupboard and was greeted with the sight of hundreds of instant noodles. He reached his hand to the back of the cupboard and pulled out a box of strawberry-flavored Pop-Tarts. Sure, he liked instant noodles, but not constantly, as he had his mask portrait. He even knew how to cook, but only one other person was aware of that: Irika. The blonde smiled as he thought of his father-like teacher, the very one who had saved him so many years ago and cared for him like no other had done before. Irika was Naruto's most precious person, well besides his Kyubi, but none save the blonde knew of his interaction with the demon. Naruto happily ate his Pop-Tarts before grabbing his keys and sliding his ridiculously tacky goggles in place. How he loathed the goggles, they added to the whole "look at me, I'm the village idiot" look. Naruto was not in fact an idiot, he was brilliant, but only the Kyubi knew of this and all of the blonde's other shocking abilities and skills. Irika knew of one of the blonde's gifts, and that was cooking. The blue-eyed fox vessel was a culinary artist and would occasionally cook meals for his hardworking teacher, though the two kept that to themselves. It was like a father and son type hobby, and they liked to keep it to themselves, their own secret. With a sigh, the young teen stepped outdoors and locked his home behind him before stuffing his keys in his pocket and placing his idiot mask on. He turned and exited the apartment complex and tucked his hands into his pockets. Naruto inwardly sighed as he walked at a leisurely pace down the streets of Konoha, facing all glares and disgusted whispers with his mask on full force. He knew exactly what was being said about him, for the Kyubi had enhanced his many senses, thus granting him great hearing. Plus, the words said were normal, the usual insults and profanities that he had heard for all of his life. Yet he didn't let it faze him, nor did it change his views on wanting to protect the village forever. The walk was long yet relaxing for the blonde as he zoned out on all the quiet verbal assaults and nasty looks. But soon enough he had arrived outside the Ninja Academy, the place where parents enrolled their children to become ninja who would protect the village and supply the major part of their economy and the entirety of their militia prowess. He entered into the building and walked the halls in silence, knowing full well that he was the first of the students to arrive. He tended to always arrive at the school building early, yet he would run into the classroom at the last second like an idiot just to maintain his perfect facade. The sound of approaching footsteps echoed distantly in his ears, so quiet that no normal person would be able to pick it up. Next came a familiar scent, one belonging to his father figure. The blonde, turning on heel, smirked like the fox within and tore off in the direction of his teacher. He raced down several halls and turned several corners before his Chunin-level teacher came into view. "Iruka-sensei!" he exclaimed flamboyantly as he quickened his pace and tackle-hugged his teacher. "Umph!" The man released the air in him, while he instinctively caught the orange blur that was Naruto. "What have I told you about running in the halls?" he questioned disapprovingly as he liked the rules being kept. It's acceptable?" the blonde asked cutely while stepping back from his favorite teacher and rubbing the back of his neck sheepishly. "Sorry," he mumbled after noting Iruka's "you gotta be kidding me" look. "It's alright. Just don't run anymore," the man stated with a smile. "Ready for your test?" he questioned, changing the subject. "Yes. I'm so going to pass. I'll be the greatest ninja and be Hokage someday." The young teen cheered happily as he leapt into the air with his fist raised high. The brown-haired instructor merely smiled at the blonde. "Well, I have to get going. Good luck on your exams," he stated before turning and walking off. "Iruka-sensei, what's the test on?" the teen called after the retreating Chunin. "You'll have to see for yourself," the man called back over his shoulder with a teasing smile on his handsome face, which merely caused the blonde to pout. "I bet it's on henge," the QB wagered. "Oh? If your wager is incorrect, what do I get out of it?" the blonde silently questioned as he turned and began walking in the opposite direction that his teacher had gone. "If I'm wrong, I'll teach you a really advanced, really powerful new jutsu. But if I'm right, I'll decide that later." The fox bet with an air of confidence that caused the blonde to inwardly roll his eyes and shake his head. "Deal." The blonde and the QB mentally shook hands. Their chips were down, and they were just waiting for the dice to be cast. 20 minutes later found a seemingly out-of-breath Naruto racing into the full classroom, panting apologies for being late, while supplying thousands of highly unlikely excuses at a fast pace that no one understood a single word he had uttered. "Thank you for joining us, Naruto," Iruka said with an annoyed look, clearly not pleased in the least at his student's late arrival. "Just as I was about to say, we have picked the area you will be tested in at random. You guys will be preforming clone henge," he said cheerfully, which caused the blonde to inwardly curse. "Kit, I suggest you avoid gambling, you are not very good at it," he fox stated smugly while Naruto inwardly groaned but outwardly looked flustered and aggravated as clone henge were supposedly on of this he was absolutely horrid at. "This will be the last time I fail. Such easy tests to become genin is an embarrassment, especially if I continuously fail at such endeavors," he said before pausing. "Kyubi-chan, what exactly do you want for winning the bet?" he asked as he and his fellow classmates moved to the waiting area, where they'd wait to be called into their exam. Naruto could almost taste the smirk that was coming from the demon within. "Kit, I'll let you know in due time," he answered evasively, causing the blonde to inwardly pout. "Sasuke-kun!" A happy squeal rang through the earlier silent room of waiting students, announcing the pink-haired girl's fangirl side had finally kicked in. With an unnoticed roll of his eyes, Naruto turned and spotted the green-eyed girl, wishing the banshee would not be so utterly annoying. "Sakura-chan!" he exclaimed as he turned up the volume of his happy idiot mask. "Shove it, Naruto!" she said venomously, causing the blonde to adorn a hurtful and downcast expression, while he inwardly sighed with utter annoyance. "I swear one of these days I'll kill her just so her scratchy voice and annoying personality can't continuously give me brain-searing migraines." He paused. "But then again, it works too well with my mask to keep someone like her around," he finished somberly while the other presents merely nodded in complete agreement. "Uzumaki Naruto," one of the teachers called. "Here," he exclaimed before leaping to his feet and tearing out of the room, through the door and into the next room where two teachers were seated at the front of the class. Mizuki and Iruka were obviously the examiners this time around. Iruka inwardly smiled at the sight of his dear student as the boy rushed excitedly into the room, an aura of pure excitement, energy and determination radiating off his body. "All right, Naruto, please preform a clone henge for us," he instructed, silently hoping that this time Naruto would finally pass. "Right," Naruto cheerfully exclaimed before he focused his chakra and flawlessly moved through his hand seals. "Bunshin no Jutsu. Clone technique," he shouted, and in a cloud of smoke appeared some doll-like, poorly done clone, which lay on the ground utterly useless and unmoving. "Ah man!" Naruto muttered dejectedly as he looked at the horridly done jutsu. Naruto? What the hell was that? Iruka demanded hotly, a dangerous twitch visible over his right eye. Yumino-san, Mizuki spoke up from his spot behind the test, his eyes looking directly at his colleague while one of his hands absently fiddled with one of the many ninja bands sitting on the desk awaiting their new owners. Maybe we should pass him. After all, he is trying very hard, not to mention this is his what? Third attempt. We should let him graduate. He concluded, causing Naruto's eyes to grow wide in what looked like sheer hope, though it was just to cover his shock. He's up to something, but I'm not sure what. Keep a close eye on him. Kyuubi gently warned the blonde with a light growl while Naruto inwardly nodded in understand while still paying rapt attention to two teachers. Absolutely not. Naruto has failed in creating even one decent clone, while everyone else has made at least 3 convincible ones. I'm sorry, Naruto. Iruka said in a quieter tone, hoping against hope that the boy would understand. Naruto inwardly nodded. Good for you, Iruka-sensei. Don't let Mizuki push you around. The blonde inwardly cheered, causing the Kyuubi to chuckle in obvious amusement. I think your mask is rubbing off on you, Kyuubi commented with a serious nod. Hey, I resent that, the blonde inwardly cried, while he turned and raced from the testing room and ran outside the academy with all his might, heading towards his usual haunt, the swing. As he arrived, he plopped himself down on the worn wooden surface and placed on a somber look, while inwardly sighing. I feel like I'm letting Iruka down each time I fail when I know I can pass, Naruto said quietly to himself, feeling guilty for hurting his most precious person. Kid, don't let it get to you. Next time you will pass with flying colors and make him so proud. You will rise up above all the shinobi out there, and one day will achieve your dream, to become Hokage. Kyuubi whispered gently, sending out his dear emotions to comfort the small boy. He inwardly smiled contentedly as his clear blue eyes watched his former classmates, his expression one of deep sadness. He's the only one that didn't pass, a woman amongst the crowd of gathered graduates and families whispered to another. Yeah. Isn't he a taller female? Began before being hurriedly silenced. Sure. Don't say it. It's forbidden. A third one muttered as she darkly eyed the demon bearer, who against their knowledge was easily able to hear. I've heard it before, and yet it still hurts. The dark looks, the heated emotions, the loathing and the insults. I've heard them all my life, and yet it still hurts. Naruto wordlessly whispered as his right hand tightly clasped the chain of the swing, causing any who looked on at him to believe he was getting his just desserts. After all, in many of their minds, the demon who killed many of their friends and family, not to mention the fourth, should never become a shinobi. It'd be too dangerous if he decided to turn on them. The Kyuubi remained silent, understanding that his vessel needed some quiet alone time, while as alone as you can get when sharing your body. Naruto inwardly tensed as he felt the coming of his teacher, Mizuki. Hey Naruto. Don't be upset with Iruka. He just believes you can do better, but let me tell you a secret. Mizuki paused as he peered deeply into brilliant blue eyes. There is a scroll within the Hokage's home that bears great secret jutsu. If you were to learn one, Iruka would have no choice but to pass you, he concluded. He wants me to steal a forbidden scroll so that I become an outcast of this village, and when I'm being hunted, he will swoop in and take the scroll and be off on his merry little way. Naruto inwardly summed up. Do it, kid. I have a feeling that this will be beneficial to the future, and my instincts have never once been wrong, the fox stated and smirked as he knew Naruto would agree with his plan. A determined look adorned the soon-to-be shinobi face as he hurriedly stood and raced off, heading towards the scroll, not looking back. But since he didn't look back, he never saw the twisted smile of his teacher's face, though he knew it was there. Iruka lay on his bed on top of the covers. Arms were crossed behind his head and his handsome brown eyes were glued to the ceiling, which was shadowed by the light of sunrise. Maybe I was being too hard on him, he thought worriedly. But he needs to learn to be strong, otherwise he won't make his dream of gaining the village's respect and becoming Hokage true. I was pushed when I lost my parents. It was hard. But I got on the right path, so I have to help Naruto find his path too, he inwardly said, having gone through this conversation with himself many times in the past. Iruka-sensei. A voice from outside his door yelled, urgency heard as a fist began hammering on his apartment door. He hurriedly leapt off his bed and moved to the door, before opening it and coming face to face with his colleague Mizuki. Mizuki-sensei, what is it? He asked, a note of concern in his voice. It's Naruto. He stole the sacred scroll and no one can find him, the silver-haired Chunin explained hurriedly. What? The brown-haired teacher exclaimed as he ran out of his home, the door closing loudly behind him as he raced off in search of the missing blonde. Naruto was seated cross-legged under a tree, his eyes hurriedly scanning the scroll's content. He had stole the scroll just after night fell and he was just about finished reading the entire thing. Done! He quietly cheered as he stood. Good, now I want you to start practicing the skills. QB instructed and the blonde happily complied. He would master all the techniques within the scroll, though he wouldn't show his ability to perform more than one to anyone. The move he would allow would be the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Shadow Clone Technique. Where is he? Irika mumbled to himself, having just combed the entire city, paying close attention to the blonde's favorite haunts. He came to a halt on top of the Hokage mountain, and he took a moment to wipe the small trickle of sweat from his brow, his brown eyes looking for any place he might have missed. He spotted the forest. Of course! He wouldn't stay in the city, he'd go off elsewhere. He exclaimed, almost embarrassed that he hadn't thought of it earlier. Without a further thought, he leapt off in the direction of the forest. He would find Naruto. He ran through the trees, looking carefully for any trail, any sign of his favorite student. There! His mind screamed as he caught sight of the bright orange jumpsuit through a cluster of bushed. Naruto! He exclaimed as he came into full sight of the blonde, who was standing there with the scroll in hand, looking as though he had just been dragged through the entire forest. Irika-sensei, I guess you found me. Naruto began as he ran a hand over the back of his neck. But now you can pass me. After all, Mizuki-sensei said that if I learn a technique from this scroll you'll pass me. He explained happily. Mizuki Irika silently thought with a frown. Good job, Naruto. Now hand over the scroll. A voice to their left demanded, as Mizuki appeared on a branch. In hand was a massive shuriken, much similar to the other two on his back. Mizuki? Irika demanded desperately, hoping that this didn't mean what he thought it meant. Mizuki merely ignored him as he launched a handful of kunai knives at Naruto. A wide-eyed brunette rushed forward and pushed the stunned blonde out of the way. One of the weapons entered Irika's right arm, a second one pierced his thigh, while the third and fourth ones missed him altogether. Naruto, hand me the scroll. I won't ask again. Give it to me. Then I can get your revenge on the village for you. Make them pay for all the years of insults and shunning, he said in a demented voice. Though I'm sure you want to know why they hate you so much. It's because you're the Nine Tails. You're the monster that attacked the village, killing so many. You ruined so many lives, and that is why they hate you, Mizuki stated venomously. A horrid look dawned on the blonde's face, though inwardly he was rolling his eyes. I already know this, he whispered silently to his demon guest. Now hand it over, Mizuki ordered in an angered tone, and after a lack of response from Naruto he launched the weapon in hand towards the boy. Naruto! Irika shouted as he raced forwards, knocking the blonde to the ground and taking the massive shuriken to the back with a painful grunt. Warm blood began trickling down his back and onto the blonde who was beneath his crouched figure. Irika, Naruto said in shock before he stood and hurriedly raced away. Oh God, please let Irika be okay. Naruto! The brown-haired teacher called after him, though he was quickly out of sight. Mizuki! What have you done? Irika quietly demanded as the traitorous man leapt off in pursuit of the blonde. Naruto ran. Is that the views of the entire village? Do they all hate me? Even Irika-sensei? Naruto silently asked as he hid himself behind a massive tree, hugging the scroll tightly to his chest as though it was his lifeline. Kit! Don't beat yourself up over this. Listen to me. I am positive Irika cares deeply for you, and I'm sure there are still people within the village that feel the same. Also, I have a feeling that in the future you'll gain more friends and people who you care for deeply, and vice versa. The QB offered up with a smile, trying to cheer the boy up. Words can hurt, no matter how true or untrue they may have been. Thank you, Q-chan, Naruto wordlessly whispered with a tiny light of understanding and hope simmering in his bottomless blue eyes. The sound of two people landing attracted his attention and he hurriedly hid himself, only peering out to stop himself and Irika on the ground before him settled in squatted positions. How did you know it was me? Irika mumbled, his hand rubbing his stomach before he dropped the jutsu, showing himself to really be Mizuki who had used the genjutsu. Because I'm not Naruto, the blonde on the ground said before he too dropped the illusion, revealing himself to be none other than the real Irika, a log clutched in hand as it had played the part of the stolen scroll. Clever, but why? Why do you defend him? He's the one that killed off your parents in cold blood. What happens if we let him live? Mizuki fumed as he watched the brown-haired teacher lean against the trunk of the tree, obviously too wounded and tired to do much else than converse. Maybe because it will keep the scrolls safe from a complete scumbag. Irika answered honestly, no fear visible in his eyes. He would stand up for what he believed in. Fool! That is what you are. Naruto and I are the same. Two of a kind if you please, Mizuki said with a twisted grin, while the concealed blonde frowned at the words being exchanged. Two of a kind? Iruka questioned, not understanding what the other man was on about. I, much like Naruto, can use that forbidden scroll filled with delectably powerful techniques to achieve the same kind of limitless power, Mizuki answered with an insane look in his dark eyes. The demon that resides within him hungers for that kind of strength. You were right to fear him, to be absolutely disgusted by him. The man finished with a sick note, his voice seductively disturbing. Iruka really does hate me, Naruto thought with a depressed little smile, his eyes downcast from the exchange between the two chunin. You're right, I hate monsters, but Naruto is no monster. True, I am not fond of the fox, but Naruto is not the Nine Tails. For him I have nothing but sincere respect. He's an excellent student, always working hard and trying his best. He works with all his might, but sometimes he's awkward, clumsy even. Maybe even a screw-up, Iruka said before pausing momentarily to catch his breath. All his life people have mocked and shunned him. That alone has given him empathy, he fully understands what it is to be in pain. He added as a flash of the first time he met the boy crossed his mind before continuing. He is no longer your fox demon. He is a proud citizen of Konohagakure. Iruka finished. Naruto, eyes wide in shock, smiled before tears of joy sprang down his cheek. He was cared for. Someone believed in him. At that moment he silently vowed never to let his favorite teacher and father figure down. Not now, not ever. How sweet. Just hearing that makes me feel all warm and fuzzy. Mizuki sneered. Well, Iruka, I had planned to save you to last, but seeing how circumstances are not in my favor, I'll just have to take care of you first. He yelled. Say goodbye. He reached behind himself, and pulled off the last remaining of his Fuma shuriken and spun it dangerously fast in his hand, while Iruka merely smiled somberly to himself. So this is it. The man thought to himself. Naruto, tears gone from sight, leapt from his hiding spot and body slammed himself with a mighty force into the stomach of his precious person's attacker, causing the massive weapon to veer off course and cut through a towering tree instead of its initial target. Naruto? Iruka silently asked as he looked on his shock, his eyes wide, almost not believing that which he saw before him. Don't you dare even think of touching one hair on Iruka-sensei's head, or I'll kill you! Naruto dangerously said, hate swirling visible in his eyes as he regarded his former teacher. Naruto! What are you doing? Get out of here and save yourself! Iruka ordered in a worried tone, fearing for the life of the boy who was so dear to him. Now I can kill you both with just one blow, the light-haired man boasted as he looked on with crazy eyes. Bring it on! I can take whatever you got, and I will dish it back 1,000 times over. The blonde ninja to be snarled dangerously as he pulled his hands up in a hand seal that neither of the men had ever laid eyes on before. You're welcome to try, you disgusting little fox. Mizuki snarled back as he moved in for the kill. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Shadow clone technique, Naruto yelled, and in a burst of smoke that encompassed all around the trio, appeared a massive army of Narutos. How? At the test he couldn't even achieve one clone, but now he has over 1,000 and they are perfect. He made them solid flesh and bone doppelgangers, which is one of the higher caliber ninjutsu. Iruka thought in surprise. I wouldn't be surprised if he does one day surpass all the Hokages who came before him. He though with a smile as he looked down at Mizuki getting utterly thrashed by the small blonde. Within moments the traitor of the village hidden in the leaves was out, bleeding and utterly battered. Naruto! Come here for a moment, Iruka said with a gentle expression as his student turned and moved towards him before kneeling down in front of the man who was a father in every way but blood. Close your eyes for a moment. I have a surprise for you, the brown-haired man explained gently, his smile widening as he watched the innocent blonde comply to his request. He reached up and gently pulled the green goggles from his favorite student's head before removing his own ninja band and tying it onto the blonde's head. You can open your eyes now, he said as he looked on the surprised face of Naruto. Congratulations. You pass. That was all it took for inner Naruto to break free and launch himself at his teacher in a strong hug, tears of pain and happiness coursing down his cheeks as the older man wrapped his arms around the small blonde. They sat there in silence, taking comfort in one another. Nothing would ever break their father-son bond. Kyubi? Naruto called out softly to his companion as he arrived home after having been treated to ramen at his favorite food bar, Ichiraku's. Yeah, kid? The demon responded, wondering what his little host wanted. I'm tired of hiding everything. I want to be a little more myself, he stated honestly as he closed his front door and flipped on the light switch, causing the one light to go on, casting an orange glow about the room. What do you have in mind? the fox asked as he sent the blonde an image of himself in humanoid form, quirking his brow in curiosity. Appearance. These clothes are hideous. Only some mentally incapacitated person would willingly wear a blindingly bright orange jumpsuit. He explained. I need something more me, but I won't be able to get something in the village as no one will sell me anything willingly, he summed up. Well, Kit, looks like you and I are going out for a late night excursion. One that will take us to a small town to the north of here. It is not a ninja dwelling, so they will have no knowledge of you being the demon. QB answered the indirect question. Okay, but we'd have to hurry. It's already getting late and I have to be at the school tomorrow for 10 a.m. so I can get assigned to my team, Naruto stated as he flicked the light back up and exited his flat, locking the door behind him. Without so much as another thought, the young newly appointed genin silently tore off through the city. He was not seen, nor was he heard. He easily slipped by the jonin who were guarding the perimeter, causing him to seriously doubt the security of the village. Oh well, that will all change once I become the next Hokage, he silently vowed as he effortlessly scaled the wall. First you have to hit rank of Chunin, then Jounin before you get to the Hokage's level. QB teased good-naturedly as the blonde leapt onto the nearest branch and began to race along the treetops, rustling not a single bird, nor moving a single leaf. He was trained well, far better than any human who knew him thought possible. He ran and he ran, as fast as he could at that point in time, moving without so much as a hint of him passing through, never once even slowing. He kept up the same, cautious and unaltered pace until he saw the glow of a town in the darkened sky. We're here, he silently offered as he slipped into the village, heading hurriedly, though at a normal non-ninja pace, towards the nearest store. He quietly opened the door, though the effort was wasted as a tiny bell hanging over the door jingled announcing his arrival loud and clear within the store. Inwardly the blonde cursed. That was careless, QB commented lightly while nodding his head contemplatively, but before the blonde could respond a voice cut. May I help you, young man? A woman, no older than 30, gently inquired as she smoothed out the wrinkles on the front of her pink apron as brown eyes kindly observed the boy. Yes, ma'am. I'm in need of a new wardrobe, as you can see mine is a major fashion don't, Naruto answered before continuing. Though I honestly have no fashion taste, so I wouldn't know what to get anyways. He laughed lightly as he ran a hand over the back of his neck in embarrassment. The young woman chuckled as she tucked her long black hair behind her ears, her dark eyes alight with amusement. Well then, you most certainly have come to the right place. I'll help you, though you'll have to tell me what type of look you're going for, she stated as she tucked her hands into her back jean pockets. Well, I honestly prefer darker colors, don't know what I was thinking when I got this, he stated as he plucked at his outfit. Something less baggy too. In style, with long-lasting materials. I am somewhat of a klutz, so I wear clothing out easily, he explained. She nodded before gaining a thoughtful expression. Wait right here and I'll nab some outfits that fit that description, she said cheerfully before moving into the many rows and displays of clothing, occasionally tugging something that looked about the blonde's size off the rack and adding it to the growing pile in her arms. After about 5 minutes of carefully gathering the best articles of clothing, the lady returned to the front with a tittering pile of very-out clothing in her arms. She gently set them down on a chair outside of a curtained-off area. Go try them on, sweetie, she ordered kindly, and the blonde hastened to do as he was told. He entered into the curtained-off room with the first outfit Shed had handed him tucked gently under his arms. The room was small, just a tiny little curtained-off room with a tiny bench and a full-length mirror for customers to look themselves over in. Naruto sighed before shrugging off his hideously brighty outfit. He hurriedly changed into the first outfit before exiting the small changing room. You look adorably gorgeous, the lady squealed with that happy-go-lucky fangirl expression on her face. If only you were older or I was younger. She sighed dreamily as Naruto merely smirked in amusement before studying his new look in the mirror. He liked what he saw. He was wearing a fitted long-sleeve top that was black and had a silver symbol on the front, though he knew not what the symbol meant. The bottom of the shirt hovered just centimeters above his pants, though it hid his belly button from sight until he lifted his arms up as the shirt would then rise up. The pants, like the shirt, was black, fitted loosely on his narrow hips and slightly baggy near the base. All in all, it was simple, yet his small lean frame looked beautiful in it. And so they continued. He tried on outfit after outfit, approving some while turning others down, and 1 hour later he finally had enough clothing to last for ages. Thank you so much for helping me pick these out, Naruto said honestly, feeling a little awkward to be back in his hideous jumpsuit after having worn such delightful clothing. Don't mention it, kiddo, the lady said happily as she finished ringing everything up. And just because you look so adorable, I'll give you a little discount. The total comes to 13,500 yen, please, she said, and the blonde happily complied by handing over the money. Thank you so much, he said again as she grabbed all 10 massive bags of clothing. I said don't mention it. She smiled. Oh, maybe you should head over next door. A friend of mine owns that store. She carries footwear and accessories, plus a few other things. She's open late, so don't worry about it being closed already. Oh, and tell her Minori sent you. She supplied with a wink as she ushered the boy from her shop. Naruto smiled as he moved towards the shop next door, bags in hand. He silently pushed the shop door open and inwardly cringed as he heard the telltale bell jingling to alert the store owner of his arrival. Kit, at this rate those little tiny bells will be your downfall. The QB snorted in amusement. I can see it now. All the newspapers in Konoha will read, Demon killed by bells. It would be such a mockery to the ninja who had lost their lives to me. After all, who would want to be outdone by a tiny little? I get it. Naruto inwardly huffed, cutting of his guest's daydream. Welcome. Aren't you out late for a little guy? A female voice greeted him and he turned to see a young lady, about the same age as the other shopkeeper, moving out from behind the counter. Yeah, I needed to get some shopping done, and Minori said I should see what you have here. Naruto explained, causing the woman to squeal and clap her hands together. Judging by the amount of bags you got there, I'd say you just got a new wardrobe, which means you'll need some hot accessories and some good footwear. The lady exclaimed before she hurriedly rushed over to the boy, looking him over. So what colors and styles did you get? She asked. Black, red, blue, orange, and green are the basic colors. The tops are all fitted while the pants are of a looser style, he explained as he set his bags down. Alright. Let's see, boots. Combat boots would go best. Silver accessories, she mumbled to herself as she moved off into the aisles and began grabbing some items. Several minutes later she returned with an armful of items. Try these on, she ordered excitedly as she handed him a pair of black combat boots that had a bunch of straps and buckles on it. He shrugged as removed his blue sandals before slipping the boots on his feet and doing them up while inwardly wondering how both the ladies knew his size. They fit him perfectly, and they came up to about mid-calf. I like them, he admitted before pulling them off. Excellent. Thought you might. Now look through this pile of accessories. Pick some, the shopkeeper said happily as he did just that. He picked out several necklaces, rings, chains, and other items that caught his eye. Minori said that you had footwear, accessories, and other things. What other things do you have? He inquired curiously as he peered around and only found things that fit into the first two categories. Ah. So you noticed, did you? Well, I have a little room in back for customers that either want tattoos or piercings. And now that I think about it, you'd look good with maybe a piercing or 4, maybe even a tattoo or 6. She answered before grabbing his arm and happily dragging him through a door behind the till. The room in back was just like your average tattoo parlor and piercing place, having the table to lie on for tattoos, while various examples of what you could get littered the wall. In the far corner was a chair with an arrangement of earrings around it. So can I tip your fancy? The woman asked eagerly while the blonde just looked around. Sure, he said, though he sounded slightly unsure if it was wise, but as he heard no complaints from the peanut gallery known as QB, he decided to go along with it. Great. So what can I get you? A lip ring? Ears? Nose? Eyebrow? Unmentionables? The lady asked as she pushed him to sit into the chair in the corner, as she hurriedly pulled out various piercing guns. I also too, belly buttons and random pieces of flesh, she added, and after a moment's thought. Eyebrow 3 on the left ear, Naruto answered as he looked at several pictures scattered on the countertop holding many images of people with many different perkings and in different places, and he blushed furiously at the one picture of a naked man holding his privates in an erotic sense while displaying the multiple piercings near the base. That looked way too painful to even consider. I'll do your ears first, they hurt way less than the eyebrow, the woman stated as she hooked on a silver stud onto the gun before putting it to Naruto's ear. Now don't move, she cautioned before pulling the trigger with a small snapping noise, and the stud easily went in the ear and was closed with the end piece in the back. See, not that bad, she commented before grabbing the second stud. Yeah, that didn't hurt a bit, he said in surprise, not lying in the least. It felt like merely a tickle. He supposed he had the QB to thank for that. Before he could finish his trail thought, the second and third earrings were already in his ear. Now this one will hurt a bit. After all, everyone has way more feeling in their eyebrows than they do in their earlobes, she explained with a smile. Okay, Naruto said while inwardly shrugging, as he didn't fear pain. After all, he suffered much worse than a little prick through the eyebrow. Without further ado, the lady brought the piercing gun up and positioned it on at the best point on his left eyebrow. Once she liked the position, she pulled the trigger, and the barbell went right in, and once more the blonde did not flinch, nor did he feel it. I heard tattoos hurt a lot, Is that true? Naruto asked as he peered into the hand-held mirror she had in her hand while inspecting his new look. Not just like a bunch of needles prodding at you. It's less painful than piercing the eyebrow. I honestly don't know if that's true, as I haven't gotten either a tattoo or my eyebrow pierced. Evil adults, the shopkeeper explained with a shrug, hoping the boy would be interested in a tattoo. She just loved her little illegal tattoo and piercing parlor. It was fun to help rebellious teens out. So can I interest you in one? She said as she clasped her hands together in a pleading manner. He said hesitantly before shrugging. I guess. He mumbled before he was pulled bodily out of the chair and ushered over to the table where he was forced to sit down. Several large books were shoved eagerly at him. Go through these. They have all kinds and you can pick any, then you just have to decide where to put them. The shopkeeper explained in a gush of excitement as she pulled out various tools and gloves she'd have to wear while the blonde moved through the books. He squirmed through all 4 of the massive books that had been shoved at him before looking up at the woman who was eagerly watching him in anticipation of what she'd soon be doing. Can I have this one put at the top of my right arm? He asked as he pointed towards the image of a silver dragon curled around a bloodied sword, the majestic beast's eyes staring up and off into the distance. All in all, it was beautiful. Yup. Of course. Any others you are interested in? She inquired as she clasped her hands together in an attentive business attitude, though her eagerness shone through, negating the effect. Yeah, there was another that caught my eye, Naruto explained as he pulled a different book towards him, which he hurriedly flipped through to the image he was interested in. This one, he said as he found it. His finger pointed towards a breathtaking masterpiece, one so beautiful and brilliant that the lady had never before had the luck to put it on another, as all her customers thought it wasn't right for them to take such a beauty. It was simply gorgeous. It was pure black and white. A heart, bloody and torn with dark wings expelled outwards as though in flight. Wrapped around the two, cutting, tearing and bleeding the piece, was vines covered in lethal thorns. The lady looked up at the boy with shock in her eyes, having never thought she'd place it on a single soul. Where? Was all she could ask, though it was said in a breathless voice. My shoulder blades, he answered before biting his lips. If that's all right? He said, though it turned into more of a question which only got him a nod of the head. Yes. I'll do the one on your arm first. Off with that jumper jacket, she stated as she snapped back into reality, and the blonde hurriedly complied before tossing the orange jacket off to the side, leaving him in his black t-shirt, which he also discarded. The woman noted the seal on the boy's stomach but merely shrugged it off and began her favorite form of art, tattooing. 4 hours later the process of both tattoos was completed, and after having bandaged them up, Naruto was informed on how to maintain them properly as he gently tugged his shirt on before pulling his jacket on. Thank you, he said sincerely as she fed her instructions while leading him back out to the front where he had all his purchasing new earrings for his piercings included in bags before paying the price asked. The woman smiled happily as she ushered the young boy, who was laden with bags, out the door into the lifeless streets of the sleeping city. She watched him walk off, her eyes glittering mysteriously as she watched him until he was gone. Grandmother, it has come to pass. Like you told me as a girl, a boy born to be great would come and accept the symbol of the lost people, she whispered as she locked her door, heading off for the night. And so it has begun, he said hardly above a whisper before disappearing altogether. Damn, that took far longer than I had anticipated, Naruto mentally cursed as he raced towards Konoha, bags in hand, while the sky to the east slowly grew brighter and brighter, signaling the soon-to-come daybreak. What do you expect? You got mauled by 2 women, then you got 4 piercings and 2 tattoos, that I really like. I knew I was a good influence on you, Kyubi stated with a serious nod. My incredible fashion taste must finally be rubbing off on you, and I can't say how soon enough, he added after a moment's thought. Kyubi, if you keep it up you'll start getting stuck in my mental doorways. I honestly don't want to have to continuously pry you and your inflated head out of my way, Naruto said with a sigh, his words earning him a half-hearted glare. Your words wound me, Kyubi whined as he pulled a hand to his chest while making an expression that makes him look as though he is experiencing heartburn. The blonde rolled his eyes as he spotted the imposing wall of the village in the distance, though one would be hard-pressed to locate it, and if it weren't for the Kyubi he would have not yet seen the village hidden in the leaves. Without a sound he slipped over the wall, avoiding the guards with ease, before racing rooftop to rooftop before arriving at his slightly run-down apartment complex. Once there he sat several of his bags down before withdrawing his key and quietly unlocking and opening the door. Once it was open he grabbed his bags and slipped inside, placing his purchases on the table before returning to the door, closing and locking it. He slowly began putting everything neatly away, either folding the clothing and putting them in drawers, or hanging them in the closet. The Kyubi holder placed all his accessories in a small box which he placed at the top of the closet. After finishing all that he released a yawn, feeling utterly whipped. Go and rest, Kit. You have a long day ahead of you on the morrow. The QB whispered affectionately as the blue-eyed wonder tiredly rubbed his eyes while nodding and changing into his new pair of black silk pajama pants, his eyes lingering on his bandaged right arm before another yawn racked his frame. Slowly he climbed into bed, setting his little alarm clock for 9 a.m. before he rolled over onto his side and fell asleep within seconds. Sleep well, little one. Your great journey starts tomorrow, the QB finished with a smile as he too went to rest within the mind of his container. The annoying buzzing of an alarm clock rang through the morning, causing the figure on the bed to wake up and turn off the annoying little clock before he stretched. He glanced about as he rubbed the sleep from his eyes, the morning sunlight streaming in through his window causing him to open his eyes slowly. It wouldn't do to blind himself too early in the morning. With a mighty yawn, Naruto slowly pulled himself out of bed before heading over to his closet and pulling out his best outfit. He wanted to make a standing impression after all. After having grabbed some undergarments from his drawer, he moved into the bathroom where he hurriedly stripped and hopped into the shower. After having scrubbed himself clean, he stepped out of the shower and turned the water off before drying off with a large, fluffy white towel. Morning, Kit. A male voice broke into his thoughts, causing him to smile as he ran the towel over his blonde hair. Morning, QB. Naruto replied cheerfully as he pulled on his black silk boxers. What do you think I should wear to make the biggest impression? The blonde inquired as he stepped out of his steamy bathroom and over to his closet where he looks around. I know just the outfit, the fox demon answered with a devilish smirk, causing the blonde to merely blink while wondering if asking his guest what to wear was a wise thing to do. Iruka stood in the Hokage's office, a clipboard with papers held firmly in hand. Hokage-sama, are you sure it's wise to put Naruto, Sasuke and Sakura on a team together? The brunette asked as he frowned down at the final listing for the three-man cells that would make up the genin teams. Oh? Why is it you don't think they should be together? Sarutobi questioned as he leaned his elbows onto his desk while absently smoking his pipe. First off, Naruto and Sasuke seem to hate each other. Secondly, Sakura is unbelievably infatuated with Sasuke that if they were together on a team she would be too strung up with her appearance and wouldn't focus on her missions. It would be a liability. The teacher explained, worry shining in his earthly eyes. Well, I understand your reasoning, however. The Hokage said before continuing, I believe that both Naruto and Sasuke will push each other to the best of their abilities. As rival, Sakura is more than likely going to be more of a backup ninja, leaving most of the work to the boys, so I don't think it should be a problem. Also, we should stick to our initial genin team selection setup. Best with the worst, while throwing in someone moderate, he stated. That would equal out the ends, making sure that all the teams remain fair. Don't you agree, Kakashi? The elderly man inquired just as a man silently slipped out of the shadows and into the room. Whatever you think is best. The silver-haired Jounin answered, causing the dark-haired Chunin to turn around in surprise to stare at the man behind him. Their eyes locked momentarily before Kakashi looked back at the third Hokage. Very well, the teams will remain as such. Iruka, you should head on out, otherwise you'll be late. Sarutobi advised, and the teacher hurriedly did as he was told. They waited for the door to close before resuming speech. Your team will be an interesting one. Try to go easy on them, the old man said with a smile as the Jounin-level ninja nodded before once more slipping out as a mere shadow. Naruto walked down the hall of the school at a relaxed pace. QB, are you sure that mellowing down my mask a little would be smart? He asked the fox as silent feet slowly drew him closer to the classroom, bustling with the noise of all his peers who had also passed to the ranks of genin. Yes, but only slightly. That way we won't arouse too much suspicion, the demon reassured his host while giving him a mental pat on the back. You'll do fine. The blonde rolled his eyes at the fox's words before he set his hand on the door. He stood unmoving for just a moment, hand frozen on the door, before he steeled his nerves and noisily slammed the door open, causing all eyes to move onto him. Wide eyes and whispers met with him as he walked in, but what would anyone accept with the way he was dressed? There he stood in all his short glory, wearing the most shocking of outfits. He wore his combat boots, going completely against what all other ninjas wore. His pants were a pair of low-riding black leather pants which clung like a second skin near the top and flowed in a baggier manner the lower they went. He wore a chain belt that had many chains hanging off the side. His shirt, which showed off some stomach but not much, was a deep crimson in color, with only 3/4 of the length sleeves. He wore several rings on his fingers and had put hoops in the place of the studs, thanks to the QB. After all, he had healed the piercings, allowing him to do as such. Around his neck was a black leather choker with an onyx cross hanging from it. But that wasn't all that was different. Naruto had decided to try something a little different, and thanks to his dear QB he had managed to grow his hair out somewhat so that it almost brushed his shoulders, though was held in position with his ninja band, which no longer had a blue cloth attached. It was black. He looked simply ravishing, well, as ravishing as any gorgeous 12-year-old could look. Naruto ignored the many looks as he silently proceeded over to a random spot in the classroom before plopping down on an empty seat and resting his head down on crossed arms. He was tired from last night, though he managed to school his face into an expression of contentment as he waited. "Hey Naruto, this meeting is for graduates only." A voice from one of his classmates cut through the hushed whispers. "What do you think this is?" The blonde looked at the boy who had spoken while annoyed, pointing at his ninja band which sat proudly on his head. "I'm a ninja. I passed," Naruto explained with a slight Cheshire cat grin on his face. The door once more suddenly slammed open and in rushed Sakura and Ino, who were in a glare down. "ISO beat you," Sakura said with a smug smile. "Yet in the largest forehead competition. But I beat you here by an inch. That same inch that'll I'll beat you to Sasuke with," the fair blonde girl declared while glaring venomously at the pink-haired girl. Sakura, obviously fed up with the direction of the conversation, while also knowing that she had no comeback, easily swept off to the side, walking to stand just in front of Naruto. "Move it! I'm sitting next to Sasuke," she ordered, not even paying much attention to the boy's new attire, though it was rather kick-ass. The blonde inwardly sighed before leaping onto the desktop in front of the Uchiha, where he squatted down and glared the boy in the eyes. He honestly had no issues with the dark-haired boy, for now that is, but playing along with him mask made it so that he had to seem irritated the guy had his girl's attention. The two engaged in a glaring contest while ignoring the fuming fangirls in the background who were angered by the blonde's utmost disrespect for their god of sex, also known as Sasuke, who was still most definitely a virgin. The mind of a fangirl will never be understood. "How dare Naruto!" Inner Sakura fumed as she held a quivering fist in the air, anger radiating heavily off her. The heated, glaring match was brutally slammed to a halt as the boy in the seat behind the squatted blonde leaned back and accidentally knocked Naruto forward. Eyes wide, he collided mouth to mouth with the boy he had been glaring at previously, whose expression of wide eyes now mirrored his own. It was a full second before anyone reacted to the kiss. Fangirls enraged, classmates shocked, the perpetrator amused, and the two nemesis hurriedly pulled back while making loud gagging noises, each muttering about poisoned and stolen innocence before bloodlust could be felt throughout the whole room. Both boys tensed before turning in the direction of the expelled hatred, only to spot a group of enraged fangirls. "Oh," the blonde muttered under his breath, still in shock at having lost his first kiss, and to Sasuke to boot. "Naruto," Sakura said in a dangerous squeal before the fangirls pounced, smacking the living daylights out of him for touching their Sasuke, and he didn't fight back as he was still in severe shock. That was the scene that Iruka had walked into, one he had seen before, but what shocked him the most was the blonde's outfit, as he hadn't seen Naruto in anything besides bright gaudy orange outfits that just screamed "Gouge your eyes out, you filthy people." He inwardly decided to ask the boy about it later. He cleared his throat and patiently waited as the genin hurried over to their seats, all anxious to find out what comes next. "All right. Congratulations for passing the exams. Now I'll place each of you in a 3-man cell and then you can meet your jounin level teacher. Okay, here are the teams. Cell 1 is," and he went on, each person listening intently for who it would be that they are paired up with. "Team 7 is Haruno Sakura Uzumaki Naruto." At those words the blonde jumped up and gave a great cheer. "And Uchiha Sasuke," Iruka said, causing the blonde to slouch down in disappointment, while Sakura jumped up into the air and cheered. "Iruka-sensei? Why are you saddling me down with that loser?" the blonde demanded heatedly as he pointed at Sasuke while he was inwardly pointing at the pink-haired girl who had eyes a disgusting shade of green, and that looked much like a violent shade of vomit. The teams were made to be balanced out. Out of the 27 genin here, Sasuke had the best scores, whereas you Naruto have the lowest. Iruka explained as he placed his hands on his hips in an authoritative manner. "That's why you two are together," he finished while inwardly sighing. "Just don't drag me down, loser," Sasuke said to Naruto. "What did you just call me?" the blonde demanded as he glared challengingly over the brooding boy. "Knock it off, Naruto," Sakura shouted in invention while glaring daggers at her newly appointed teammate. Iruka sighed as a look of forced patience graced his face. "They'll work it out, even Naruto," he thought with affection as a small smile graced his features. "Things may be rocky now, but with time they'd get better and the bonds formed would grow stronger." "All right." The brunette cut in before it could get more violent, then Sakura repeatedly smacking the blonde on the head. "I'll introduce your mentors this afternoon, so until then you are all dismissed," Iruka stated. Naruto peered out the classroom door in outward frustration, looking for their sensei who was late. "Cut it out, Naruto," Sakura ordered as she leaned against the desk trying to catch the Uchiha's eye. The blonde ignored her as he popped his head back into the classroom before looking over at his teammates. Why is it we are the only team whose jounin hasn't shown up? He demanded almost angrily. Heck! Even Irika-sensei has left already! He exclaimed in annoyance before a sly look fell over his face. He moved quickly as he pulled a desk over to the side of the door and put a chalkboard eraser in the gap between the door and its frame. That's what he'll get for being late, the blonde explained. I want no part of it, Sakura huffed as she crossed her arms over her chest while inwardly she was cheering the blonde on. He's an elite ninja, there's no way he'd fall for a trap so pathetic, Sasuke said as he broke out of his angsty bubble of angst and sent his small teammate an annoyed look. A gloved hand reached in the crack, the gloveless section of his fingers gripping the door as he pulled it open while putting his head through the crack just in time for the eraser to fall on his head in a ball of dust before clattering to the floor. Naruto burst out laughing, finding it amusing that the jounin had been struck by the brush even though it had been done on purpose. I'm so sorry, sensei. I tried to stop him, Sakura pleaded as she held her hands clasped together in front of her. So he's out, jounin instructor, he seems worthless, Sasuke inwardly moaned while an unreadable look graced his face. My first impression of you three is I hate you, Kakashi said in a pleasantly light voice while the three genin got horrified/embarrassed looks on their faces, well except Sasuke whose eye merely twitched. The three teammates silently sat down on the stairs on the rooftop while their newly appointed sensei plopped down on the metal railing to observe his new charges. Why don't we introduce ourselves? The silver-haired man said as he gazed around the group with his one revealed eye. What do we say? Sakura asked, ever the teacher's pet. You know, favorite thing, things you hate, dreams for the future, hobbies, things like that. He exclaimed with a shrug, seemingly uncaring about any of this. Why don't you got first so we have an idea what to do? Naruto suggested as he idly fiddled with the chain on his belt. Me? Alright, my name is Hatake Kakashi. There are some things I like and some things I dislike. I have few hobbies and my dream for the future, well, that doesn't matter. He finished with a happy quirk to his eye, which had to mean he was smiling, though with that mask covering his nose down it was hard to tell. Blondie, your turn, Kakashi said after a moment of silence during which his charges merely contemplated the fact that they had only learnt the man's name. I'm Uzumaki Naruto. I like ramen. I like it when Irika-sensei treats me to ramen at Ichiraku's. What I hate is the 3-minute wait it takes for the water to boil. My hobbies include trying different kinds of ramen and comparing the kinds. Naruto paused for a breath here while his teacher sighed at the thought that the blonde had noodles on the brain. My dream for the future is to become the next Hokage, and then the villagers would finally acknowledge me and give me the respect I deserve, the blonde exclaimed. Kakashi's visible eye widened remarkably at the boy's announcement. Well, he most certainly turned out interesting, he thought as his eyes moved over to the female member of the groups, and he needed to retain a shiver. I'm Haruno Sakura. My favorite thing is, she trailed off as she glanced over at Sasuke. Well, it's not a thing, it's a boy. And that boy is, she trailed off yet again as she looked over at the brooding dark-haired Uchiha. My dream, she stopped as her cheeks turned crimson and her eyes darted over to Sasuke. I hate Naruto, she exclaimed heatedly, her emotions pulling a complete 180. Her declaration caused the blonde to visibly pout before. It seems young girls are more interested in boys than they are in the ways of the ninja, he mentally complained with a sigh before focusing his attention of the third child. My name is Uchiha Sasuke. There are many things I hate, and few I like. My dream? Well, it's not a dream, more of an ambition. One that I will one day accomplish, restore my clan and kill a certain someone. He concluded in his best brooding manner that caused the pink-haired ninja to croon, the blonde to shiver, and the teacher to frown. I thought as much, Kakashi inwardly concluded as his gaze swept over the groups. Formal training begins tomorrow at 0500H at the training field. What will our first assignment be? Naruto asked as he adjusted his headband. Survival exercises. But our school days were filled with many survival exercises, Sakura stated. Yes, but you'll have to survive against me. It won't be your typical kind of practice, the man explained. What kind of practice will it be? Naruto asked intelligently. If I told you, you'd chicken out? Of the 27 graduates, only 9 will get to continue on as genin, while the rest are sent back to the academy for further training. The test you are going to perform has a 66 failure rate. He finished darkly while looks of fear graced the blondes and the pink ones' faces, while Sasuke merely narrowed his eyes. Was our graduation test pointless then? Naruto hotly demanded as he crossed his arms. No, those were merely to weed out those who stood no chance of ever being ninja. Now bring all your weapons for tomorrow. Oh, And don't eat unless you like throwing up, he added cheerfully, though the look in his eye was dead serious, causing the three genin to swallow. The details of this assignment are in his handout. Memorize it. He finished as he handed the three of them the papers before disappearing in a puff of smoke. Naruto sighed as he once again read over the details of tomorrow's mission. It was survival training, and they were to retrieve an item from their teacher within a time limit. If they failed, they'd be sent back to the academy for more tutelage. Damn Kyubi, this route is going to take forever to become strong and respected. I can't wait that long. The blonde inwardly complained to his demonic companion. Well, if you aren't fond of this path, make a new one. The fox responded in a bored manner while it stared at its humanoid form's fingernails. A new path? What do you mean? Naruto inquired, obviously intrigued by his Kyubi's words. Yes, brat, you could do something that is against all the laws set in place, and do something incredible in secret, the demon explained excitedly to his container, obviously wanting the boy to give in and try it out. You mean go out and become great while in disguise? Help the weak without holding back? The blonde asked excitedly as he bounced happily on the balls of his feet, thankful that he was in his apartment so that no one would see him and doubt his sanity. Yup. The demon said affirmatively while smirking in a predatorial way. After all, what better way is there to train than to gather experience on the actual battlefield, away from the expectations of others? But before you go out and do anything, you'll have to devise a disguise and a name for yourself. Though the name depends on what you plan on doing once out of here. Okay, for an outfit, Naruto began aloud before moving over to his closet and pulling things out. Dark would be best, the blonde mumbled as he pulled out all dark clothing. Maybe a tight outfit with a cloak of sorts over top of it. Maybe a mask too, kinda like the Umbu have, he whispered as he pulled out a pair of black leather pants that no one had ever seen him in. They were dark and shiny, though they had cleverly placed tears all over them, showing off an alarming amount of skin. These will do, he decided as he tossed them onto his bed. Shirt now, he mumbled while the Kyubi merely watched on in amusement. The kid could seriously prove to be some fun entertainment, especially with all the talking to himself business. That one, Kyubi stated as he eyed the pure black fishnet top that Naruto had in his hands. This one? The blonde asked quietly as he ran a critical eye over the long-sleeved mesh shirt that would cling to him like a second skin. I think it'll work, he said in agreement as he tossed the top over to join the selected pants. Kyubi, I'll use combat boots, black of course, but I'll have to go out and get them, seeing as I only own the one pair and I wouldn't want it to seem suspicious for me to have the same footwear as the mysterious person I'll pretend to be, he silently informed his partner. Now all I need is a cloak and a hello. Where'd you come from? He asked out loud as he pulled something out of his closet that he had never before laid eyes on. I don't remember purchasing this, or putting it in my closet, Naruto mumbled as he eyed the article of clothing in his hand with an appreciative look. But this is perfect, he concluded after studying the black cloak on hand. It was black and heavy, yet it flowed like spun water that seemingly pulled all shadows into it. It was long-sleeved, reached the ground, and it had a hood. The cloak was almost all black save for the silver stitching on the back which read Kagege's Hoku in kanji. Shadow Eclipse, Naruto mumbled with a smile as he absently trailed a gentle finger over the words. I like that, perhaps though I ought have two different names, though still be one being hidden in secrets, he said more than suggested. Naruto hurriedly shrugged out of his stylish clothing, taking even his boxers off before pulling on the chosen pants. Damn, that's tight, he muttered as he did his pants up. No kidding, it looks almost like you were poured into them. Fair warning now, beware the Fandrels, Kyubi teased, though the blonde merely rolled dazzling blue eyes before sliding the top over his head. Then he moved over to the mirror to appraise the bottom layer of his disguise. It needs accessories, the blonde thought matter-of-fact after several moments of contemplative silence. Belt, he mumbled as he moved over to his dresser and opened his newly appointed accessory drawer. Every guy needed one. Kyubi? This one or this one? He asked as he held out two black belts that looked similar. Naruto, they look almost the same, but I choose the one on the left. It has that attached holster piece on the back that is detachable. Kyubi answered honestly as that was the only difference between the two belts, and the blonde merely nodded before placing the unchosen one back in its place before slipping the chosen one on. He pulled out a black choker that had a small silver shuriken charm hanging on it, and put it on before removing his resent earrings and replacing them with dark onyx hoops. That's better now, all I need is the boots, mask, and maybe some gloves too, the blonde summed up as he pulled his cloak on. Without another word, Naruto pulled the hood up. As he watched on in the mirror, the cloak's shadow hid the top half of his face from view. Perfect, he thought with a devilish grin before slipping secretively out of his apartment and moving silently through the city, keeping to the shadows. He ran until he reached a nearby store, one of the more upper-end ones that he had never been allowed in before, and silently went inside. It was huge, and had everything. Can I help you, sir? A slippery voice from a greasy-haired man reached him, causing him to turn in the man's direction, thankful that the hood was shrouding his appearance, otherwise he'd be kicked out. Naruto silently observed the man with a calm, calculating look that was unseen, though caused the slimy man to squirm slightly. After a few moments, the Shadow Eclipse nodded his head in a slow and intimidating manner, causing the store owner to visibly gulp and sweat. What can I get you, sir?" he stuttered out while nervously clasping his hands together in front of him as he awaited the stranger's response. "Boots, gloves, mask, weapons," Naruto answered in a low voice, using a hinge on it to make him sound far older and deadlier than he truly was. "Yes, sir. Right away," the greasy git exclaimed as he hastily ran off to grab samples for his frightening customer. Moments later, the man hurriedly scrambled back towards his intimidating customer, arms laden with several things, though he was also followed by, or so Naruto assumed, the man's assistant, who was likely wise, hauling many things. "Boots first," the slimy one said noisily as he set his pile down on a counter before retrieving a pair of boots. "I took the liberty of grabbing the best pair we have. The only one of its kind," he explained hastily while greedily rubbing his hands together as he eyed the stranger, who was examining the boots with a critical eye. They were indeed exquisite footwear. They were black leather which shone with the light yet danced with the shadows. They were tall, and would likely reach to just above the calf, and they were draped in shimmering chains. It held many secret compartments in it, even one that could hold a decent-sized dagger. The shopkeeper had been correct in the assumption that those boots were perfect for he who would be great. "They'll do," Naruto answered with a sharp nod, his voice still concealed under the hinge. "Excellent. Gloves." He hurriedly chuckled as he pulled out the few pairs that they had grabbed. "We have full gloves, fingerless gloves, fighting gloves, and so on," he explained as he set the gloves down for his customer to regard. "Those," the cloaked ninja stated simply as he pointed at the pair at the far right. They were simple yet extravagant, which was a paradox in itself. They were a pair of fingerless black gloves with silver spikes on the knuckle points. More than likely they would come in handy in his secret life. He set them on top of the boots which he hadn't tried on, though he was 100% positive they would fit perfectly. "Now we have a variation of masks here. Umbu style to masquerade, to blank point ones," the greasy man said in a slippery voice as he and the assistant placed the masks before their frightening customer. "That one will suffice," Naruto said as he motioned towards the one that was pure black on one half and silver on the other. "Simple, but it would serve the intended purpose." "Excellent, now my assistant will ring these up while I show you the weapons area," the owner stated before he led the way across the store, the blonde in silent tow. He walked past the weapons display, causing the blonde's curiosity to grow. "You don't suppose he has an illegal stash of hidden weapons, do you?" the blonde silently asked his companion, who shrugged. "Probably he is a shifty, greasy bastard, and those are generally the type who'd own something like that. Probably sells in the underground," QB stated with a sigh. "I seriously don't like guys like him," the fox muttered before silence fell over them. Naruto inwardly chuckled as they both came to a halt at a blank space of wall. He silently observed as the man looked around nervously before tapping a section of the wall. The store was filled with an electrical humming noise before the wall that was tapped shifted inward at a point about the same size as a door. The greasy man motioned for his customer to step in, and the blonde did so without a second's hesitation and was hurriedly followed by the man who shut the door behind them, encasing them both in pure darkness. Fumbling was heard before a few dim lights turned on, allowing the blonde full view of the room beyond the wall. It was huge. Shelves and display cases littered the large room, each bearing many kinds of fancy weapons, even some that looked obviously illegal. This was perfect. He moved over to the nearest case and regarded the strange but deadly weapons that gleamed in the little light. But he barely had a chance to investigate as the wall door slid open once more, and in walked a man with an arm full of wrapped packages. "Kazuki-san," the man called out in greeting as he spotted the greasy man. "I thought you'd be back here since only that bloody assistant of yours was out front," the man said in a deeply accented voice that sounded kind. "Ah, I see you have lured another customer in," he exclaimed as he set the packages down while looking at Naruto in all his cloaked glory, which allowed the blonde to fully see the man. He was tall, towering taller than anyone he had ever met, which of course made him seem all the more smaller. He had black hair, which resembled strung silk, tied in a low ponytail at the nape of his neck, his pale purple eyes gleaming with a mischievous glint. He was dressed in a rich crimson man's kimono, which made his golden tan all the more alluring. "I am Kakashi Fushigiki, but you can call me Kyo," the man introduced himself as he eyed the cloaked figure before him. "And judging by your attire, you rather not have your true name known, so what shall I call you? The Shadow Assailant, perhaps?" the man concluded as he tapped his chin thoughtfully. I am Kageges Hoku, Shadow Eclipse, though Shadow Assailant will do fine for a second name. Naruto responded, his henge voice all the more mysterious with the newest name. Ah, the man said with a smile, while he looked over at the greasy man known as Kazuki. I take it you are here for some specialty weapons? The man asked as he returned his attention to the blonde while ignoring the now scowling shopkeeper. The blonde nodded sharply. Well, you shouldn't buy them from him, he said, pointing his thumb at the man before he continued. He has the cheaper quality items, and he sells them for insane prices. Come with me and we will discuss business further at my office. He finished before he turned and walked over to the hidden door which had been left open and exited the secret room. Naruto followed after the man curiously, the shopkeeper at his heels. Come, Kageges Hoku. My office isn't too far, the man said as he waited by the door. Ah, just a moment, the shopkeeper called. The young man here was about to purchase these things. He concluded as his assistant held out Naruto's purchases towards the blonde, who took it and was about to fetch his wallet before Kyo spoke. Kazuki-san, put them on my tab, he exclaimed before leading the cloaked ninja out of the shop. The young genin followed the man out into the village, which was a lot less busy at this hour as the sun would soon set, meaning that most families were likely to be eating dinner at that point. They moved through the streets, Kyo occasionally greeting people he knew, all of which gave the cloaked figure a curious glance but made no move to question the tall man who had to have been a well-known villager judging by all the greetings. After a good 10 minutes or so, they arrived outside of a rich tea house, the best tea house in all of Fire Country. My office is in here, the man said as he led his way up the stone steps and to the door, which was opened for both of them. At the door was a young girl with her hair held in a simple low ponytail, though she wore a positively stunning kimono which was a pale pink and had white flower petals flowing along the silk material. The obi was white and tied in a simple, unextravagant manner. Welcome back to Mukurin Fushigiki-sama, the girl greeted as she performed a deep bow, her eyes never reaching theirs. Welcome, honored guest, she said as she likewise bowed to Naruto, who was busy observing the place as he had never been in such a beautiful and luxurious place. Thank you, Shikana-san. Could you possibly have some tea sent up to the office for us? He asked politely as he slid his feet out of his wooden sandals, which the girl hurriedly placed in the show rack. Yes, Fushigiki-sama, she said before bowing her way out of the hall and left through a sliding door directly to the left of the entrance. Kyo led the way down the hall and out another door which led to the courtyard. Outside was a beautiful grassy area, filled with many glorious plants. Everywhere you looked there was geisha entertaining the men. Naruto of course merely looked on, not fully interested in the whole thing, as he followed the tall man down the highly polished wooden walkway, and over to another door which revealed some richly decorated stairs. Without a word the two ascended the stairs and came up into a long hallway with only a single door at the center. Through that door they passed, and inside was a cozy little office set up in a traditional style. This is my office, Kyo stated as he sat behind his low desk before he motioned to his guest to sit on the comfortable-looking pillow before the desk. Tell me, what do you think of my little tea house? He asked curiously as he observed the blonde as he sat while placing his purchased goods on the floor beside him. It is beautiful, Naruto answered honestly. His words seemed to greatly please the tea house owner, though before another word could be spoken, the door slid open to reveal the young girl from before, carrying a silver platter that held a pot of tea and 2 cups for them. Thank you, Shikana-san. You are dismissed, he stated as soon as she set the tray down, and she hurriedly bowed before exiting the room, sliding the door shut behind her. Now down to business. I take it you are a ninja, he stated more than asked, and was proven right by the nod. Excellent. I'll be blunt and to the point. I want to be your supplier, Kyo said. My supplier? Naruto asked curiously. Yes. Meaning if you need weapons, poisons, tools, information, or anything of the likes, you can get it from me free of charge, Kyo explained. Why? The blonde genin countered. You have an air about you that I like. I can tell you have potential to be great. Besides, what's a rich man to do when he grows bored of the beautiful geisha at his feet? He chuckled in amusement as he poured his guest, then himself, some tea. What would you get out of it? Naruto asked as he picked up his tea and took a sip of it. Nothing but the satisfaction that I'm helping he who will one day be famous, he said with a cheerful smile as he took a sip at his tea. How are you so certain I'll amount to that? Naruto inquired before he took a tentative sip of his tea. Well, I have this, I guess you could call it gift, of being able to read a person's character. You have one that is striking, powerful, creative, and strangely balanced that it would be a blasphemy to not amount to anything. I suppose I'm not making much sense, but it isn't an easy matter to describe to one not blessed with the gift, he said while laughing in a heartfelt manner. But I suppose I can test you. What do you find suspicious? He asked in an aloof manner that could mean he was speaking of anything. Many things, but namely, at the moment, this room. The tea house is rather large, and the building we are in was built equal size on the base and top. Through our passing through the building, the only doors lead to the gardens, the washrooms, and the bedchambers, while one door lead to the stairwell. The stairwell is the only one in here, and it leads to a very long hall which only has one door. The door to this office, but it is far smaller than the rest of the building. Meaning you have many a hidden room on this level. Naruto easily explained as he finished his tea and set the empty cup back on the desk in front of him. Exactly. My point is proven that you are an incredible person. No one would have been able to gather that much so quickly, and remain calm when such a possibility could mean there is a threat. In other words, you are the perfect one for me to supply to. What do you say? Kyo finished as he set his half-drunk tea on the table and fixed the boy before him, whose face he couldn't see, with an intense and almost pleading look. Very well, how much will I owe you for your services? Naruto questioned. Nothing, he answered as he stood. Come, I'll show you to my supply room, he said as he moved towards the wall directly behind his desk where a scroll painting was mounted. He pulled the picture up and pressed a little notch behind it, causing the wall to their left to silently slide open. Naruto got to his feet and moved towards the wall, leaving his earlier purchased goods where they were to collect later. If the room at the Kazuki's store had been impressive, it was nothing in comparison to the massive room beyond. At the far wall was a massive computer that likely would carry all the information anyone could ever want. Technology like this was foreign to ninja villages and was likely more advanced than most of the non-ninja dwellings that existed. A friend of mine is a real computer genius. Best of the bunch. I had him make me that lovely pet, and it holds all the information you could ever dream of on every and any subject. After all, it's all the gathered intelligence from my worldwide web of spies. Kyo explained, obviously very proud of the computer. The blonde let his eyes wander over the weaponry that was shelved and well ready for use at any given moment. He noted various vials of all sizes and colors which most likely were all sorts of poisons. He spotted a mirror, and clothing all fashionable and highly unnoticeable. But at the other end there seemed to be a library of sorts with many books and scrolls which caught his eye. Those, Kyo said, spotting the blonde's gaze, are copies of all ninjutsu styles of every village, from every country. He explained. This room is always at your expo cell. You may come and go as you please, and I'll even work as your personal assistant here while creating works and such that would be useful to you. So what do you think? He asked with a smile. Impressive, the blonde answered. Glad you like it, Kyo said with a smile as he walked over to the computer and grabbed a small 1 centimeter thick, 5 centimeter wide wristband and tossed it to Kagege's Hoku, who easily caught it, though he held it unsure of what it is. That there is another device my friend made. It is a mini version of a massive computer and has full access to the main computer here. It is voice and key commanded, meaning you can press that little black button beside the screen and it'll open the mini keypad, or you can press the blue one beneath it and simply word your request. It also works as a communication device, and I have the other, he said as he pulled up the right sleeve of his kimono to reveal a same-looking piece. If you need anything, just press the red button below the blue one and that will cause a vibration to be sent through the piece to the wearer, so that it attracts no enemy attention. Now on the other side of the screen is the green button. Press that and the device will gain a little illusion to make it look like a simple wrist bracer. Oh, and it will only work for you as I have already programmed it. He finished with a smile, while the blonde slipped it onto his left wrist. Next on the list, weapons, he stated as he moved over to the weapon selection. Now, as I'm sure you gathered, I supply weapons to underground black markets. But I keep the best of the best here, he said with a devilish smirk and wink. Now, seeing as you are a shinobi, you will likely use ninja tools. Correct? Kyo asked happily. Yes, Naruto answered with a light nod. Right, so you'll need the basics, ninja stars, throwing knives and so on, he said as he pulled out a holster of sorts and placed the necessary ninja tools, including exploding notes, inside the holster before tossing it to the boy, who caught it and attached it to his belt, showing that the front of the cloak was undone. Without a look in the blonde's direction, Kyo tossed several sheathed daggers at him, which he caught and placed them around his thighs. Those will be good distraction weapons, and here are 2 flat blade versions that would do well in those boots you got from Kazuki-san, he explained as he tossed 2 more at the blonde. Here are a packet of 10,000 mini Senbon needles which can be coated in a desired poison, he explained as he tossed a small box towards the blonde. And this is the shooting device for them. With 1 chakra-filled flick of your wrist it'll launch as many as you wish, and as a bonus to any eye it looks like a simple wrist brace, he said as he held up the device, then tossed it like all the rest towards the ninja, who slid it on right away. I think you'd do well with 2 swords, Simple, average-sized swords. Ones that are chakra enhanced. Kyo mumbled to himself as he looked over the swords. Aha! The perfect pair. Muchitsujo Kage no Tanto. The Chaos Shadow Blades, if you will. Both are of very fine make and have the ability to mold shadows into a solid assault. You can also perform jutsu through the blades. He explained as he picked up the sheathed beauties. Back or waist straps? He asked as he looked back over at his hero-to-be. Back. Naruto said after a moment's contemplation, the Kyuubi's opinion taken into account. Kyo nodded as he attached the two sheaths to a back harness before throwing them to the blonde, who managed to slip it on so that they were partially under the cloak, though he had to tear a spot in the top for the sword hilts to stick out. He looked dangerous. Well, that should do it for weapons. Now on to poisons, he said almost cheerfully. Now my collection of poisons is very vast and dangerous, but I have the antidotes to all of them just in case, he said with a wink. This one is the silent death. As suggested by the name, the person affected by it will lose the ability of sound before keeling over dead, takes about 2 hours to works, and is only reversible to up to an hour after the poison was administered. Next, he said as he picked up a vial containing a glimmering white liquid, is the inner fire. It causes the victim's blood to heat up and boil, cooking from the inside out. He set the vial down. This one, he pulled up another vial, but this time it had a pale blue liquid inside, is my personal favorite. Eternity of torture. It has no known cure at the moment, and is by far one of the worst ones to be infected by. It has 7 stages. The first is a high fever. Second, breaks every bone in the body one at a time. Third, causes the blood to heat up to unstable points that cause the veins to burn up. Fifth, the heart dries out and the lungs become flooded. Sixth, all nerve endings become hypersensitive. Seventh and final stage, a slow death. The whole period of this poison lasts about 2 months. Kyo said with a smile. Call me a sadist if you must, but that won't change my opinion, he said with an honest shrug. I'm sure it'll take forever to go through all these, so I'll just give you the 3 poisons I told you of and the 2 antidotes for them to carry on you, and I'll pack the rest up, he decided as he walked over to the blonde and handed him the vials, which he immediately placed in the holster that was part of the belt. Kyo moved over to the corner of the room and grabbed a beautiful wooden box lined with soft silk. He placed a vial of each poison, which were all labeled, at the bottom of the box before placing a divider over top where he set all the antidotes, which were also labeled. Now I have all vials labeled so that when you have the chance you can look them all up on your computer, the man said as he closed and locked the box. To open this, simply touch a chakra-filled finger to the keyhole, he said as he set the box off to the side. I don't think we need to worry about your outfit. It is fine as is. And for now we should hold off on the scrolls, seeing as you have much to carry as is, he said with a smile, but drop by any time you wish, and the maids will show you in, he told him as he picked up the poison-filled box, and the two of them walked back into the office, the wall sliding shut behind them. Naruto moved over to his purchases and slipped the mask on, before grabbing the gloves as well and sliding them onto his hands. Next he pulled on his boots before he moved to stand in front of his kind supplier. Thank you. I appreciate this greatly, Naruto said with slight inclination to his head. Kyo simply smiled. Don't mention it. Now here. He handed the blonde the vials. Come back whenever you need something, you know how to get in if I'm not here, and how to reach me if you need something I don't have, he said before the blonde nodded and simply disappeared from the room in a way of the most experienced of shinobi could. Morning dawned early for the blonde as he had been out late last night acquiring all his goods, and when he came home he had to build a small closet-style thing to keep all of his hidden life's goods. First he built and then he concealed it, making it look like a part of the wall, then the door, which was also concealed, was locked and could only be opened by his chakra signature. It was a much similar method of costume hiding as all the superheroes in comics had. A secret room with many mysteries. Ones that weren't to be found out. He had only been asleep for the last 3 hours or so, and he had already slept in enough that if he didn't hurry up, he'd be late for the set time. I don't know why you are rushing, the Kyuubi drawled as he watched his host hurriedly pull on a pair of leather pants before shrugging on a black tank top. He slid on the 2 wristbands, that looked inconspicuous, despite their true nature. The blonde had decided that since the computer was illusion to be not seen, and the needle launcher wasn't something out on the market yet, plus it looked like a normal wristband, he'd wear them from now on. After all, it was good to be prepared. He pulled out several other accessories and attached his old ninja pouch, which was now black, and raced out the door, having not eaten even though it wasn't due to the warning his sensei had placed on them the other day. He raced out the door, a random bag on his shoulders, and ran off to the training field. As he was nearby to his destination, he sensed the 2 chakra signatures of his teammates approaching the location, so he slowed his run down to a walk and adopted a tired expression. At the same time, Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura entered the field at a tired pace and met at the middle, giving half-hearted greetings at the insane hour of the morning. After a while, the blonde gracelessly plopped himself down on the ground. As I said earlier, I don't know why you rushed. You know well enough that your teacher will be a normal 3 hours late. Kyubi deadpanned. Simple. I came early as to not arouse suspicion, plus it proves that I can follow the orders of my superiors. The blonde explained to the fox. I suppose you have a point. Say, tonight are you going out as the Kagege's Hoku for your debut? After all, Kyo, no matter how suspicious he is, has my trust, and I think it would be more respectful to get into action soon. Kyubi explained, and the blonde could only inwardly nod in agreement. Tonight it is, Naruto wordlessly whispered as silence fell over his mind, much as it had on the field. It would be a long wait. Yo! The voice of their sensei greeted the students as Kakashi appeared in a puff of ninja smoke. He had his happy eye look going on that made it seem as though he was smiling. Though one couldn't be sure for certain unless he did that action with his mask off, which wasn't likely to happen anytime soon. You're late! Naruto and Sakura screamed in sync, as they glared hotly at their teacher, and Naruto was pointing in an accusing manner. Off the side, the Uchiha prodigy silently observed his teammates with disdain. They were going to pull him down and be a hindrance to his vengeance plans. Kakashi ignored his students' words and walked over to a nearby tree stump where he set an alarm clock of sorts. You'll have to noon. Kakashi began as he caught the 3 genins' attention. I have 2 bells, he said as he pulled out 2 golden bells held on a red ribbon each, that you 3 must steal from me. Whoever doesn't get a bell fails and will not get lunch and will be tied to that tree stump to watch the rest of us eat. The 3 inwardly groaned, each thinking the same thing, so that's why he didn't want us to eat. Each of you have to try and get a bell, and since there isn't enough to go around, one of you will definitely be tied to the stump. Meaning one of you will be heading back to the academy in disgrace. You may use any weapon at your disposal and must come at me with the intention to kill. Kakashi finished. But that's dangerous, Sakura immediately exclaimed. Ha! This will be easy. I mean, you couldn't even dodge a simple eraser. You're going to get yourself killed, Naruto said while laughing in amusement, keeping up his dumb blonde facade. The weakest are usually the loudest. Now let's ignore the dunce and we'll start on my signal, Kakashi said in all seriousness, though his words triggered Naruto's mask's rage. The blonde hurriedly reached into his weapons pouch and withdrew a kunai with a twirl before he raced forward with enough speed to come off as a moderately quick genin. In a move that his teammates couldn't see, Naruto was spun around, Kakashi's one hand held the blonde's wrist so that the kunai was millimeters away from the spiky gold hair, while the other hand had a firm grip on the boy's head. I didn't give the signal yet, the jounin said in amusement. But you came at me with the intention to kill. So it seems you've begun to respect me, he said with pride and contentment shimmering in his one visible eye. Maybe, just maybe, I'm beginning to like the 3 of you, he said after a pause. Now ready, steady, go! Kakashi exclaimed, and his 3 students disappeared from sight with the skill of a genin which was easily seen through by his superior skills. Well, it seems they know how to properly hide themselves, Kakashi thought before he caught sight of the blonde standing boldly out in the open. Well, except him, he thought with a sweat drop. It's time for the real fight to begin, Naruto boldly declared while smugly folding his arms in front of his chest, while he inwardly winced. Good, he hated being like this. That fool! Sasuke mentally hissed from his hiding spot within the foliage of the trees where he was observing his teacher and teammate. He's so pathetic, Sakura inwardly complained. He's nowhere near as cool or strong as my Sasuke-kun, she thought with a happy fangirl squeal. I suppose we could start in the hand-to-hand combat, otherwise known as taijutsu, Kakashi stated as he looked up to the sky in contemplation as his hand slipped towards his weapons pouch, paying no heed to the now charging blonde, who paused in his tracks as he saw the teacher reach towards his weapons pouch. Hand-to-hand combat? Then why is he reaching for a weapon? The blonde genin silently asked himself before sweat dropping as he saw his teacher pull out a little orange book that was most obviously one of the porn novels. Now that is insulting, he growled to the fox. This test is a test of teamwork, and judging by your comrades, they won't help you. I suppose you could let a little minuscule fraction of your skills shine through. After all, you need that bell, Kyubi said in a deciding manner. But don't forget to make it look like it was still a dunce-like fluke. Right, Kyu-chan? Naruto inwardly cheered before a devious smirk graced his face, and he charged forward, aiming a punch at Kakashi, who easily evaded the assault. Unperturbed, the blonde pressed his attacks until his teacher vanished from eyesight, which naturally caused him to stop. He's coming up behind me, Naruto whispered to Kyubi, though made no move to acknowledge it. Showing you back to your opponent is a poor thing to do, The silver-haired Jounin said with a sigh before his hands moved through a series of seals before he yelled, Hidden Leaf Ancient Taijutsu Supreme Technique. 1,000 years of pain. Before he rammed his middle and index fingers of both hands against Naruto's but sending him airborne. His teammates watched unfeeling embarrassed by the blonde being so weak as they watched him crash into the deep river with a large splash. No matter how much of an idiot my mask is, no one, and I repeat no one, makes a mockery of him like that. Naruto inwardly raged as he swam to the surface, a plan in mind. He broke the water with a gasping breath as he pulled himself onto the shore, his stomach rumbling pitifully, though only the mask was affected by the shown weakness. What's the hold up? You do realize you have to get one of these bells before lunchtime to pass, right? Kakashi asked as he looked down at his student, his orange book still in hand. The Jounin turned with a sigh and began walking in the opposite direction before a massive splashing noise rang through the air as 10 Naruto clones leapt out of the water. Ha! Meet my specialty attack. The Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. The blonde, still seated at the shore, said with a proud look on his face and a feeling of success in his heart that none could take down. 10 distinct bodies. What technique is he using? Sasuke thought with wide eyes, feeling utterly shocked to see those clones, as it was a well-known fact that the blonde was pathetic with clones. They aren't illusions. They are solid clones. Sakura thought in shock as she peered out from under the bush she was huddled under. Not illusions, but clones made of flesh and bones, each with their own amount of chakra, Kakashi said in shock as he gazed on at the oncoming clones, having not expected his blonde student would be able to use that forbidden technique. But at your level you couldn't possibly be strong enough to hold this up for more than a minute. You may talk big, but you don't have what it takes. The teacher continued almost sadly. Wait hat! Kakashi managed to get out as another Naruto jumped onto his back and grabbed his arms in a way so that the older Jounin wouldn't be able to use his arms. Both Sasuke and Sakura looked on in surprised shock. When did the dobe learn to do something like that? The Uchiha said in silent shock. You said something back, watching your back, sensei? The blonde asked with a devilish smirk in place. Damn. One of the other Narutos rushed forward. I told you I'm only going to hit you once. It screamed as it pulled its fist back and slugged away, the fist hitting another Naruto who stood in the teacher's former position. What? He used substitution, the blonde inwardly cursed. He must have changed into one of us, he declared, and all of his clones played along as they began pummeling each other. Only after he was certain he put on a good show did he pull back. Wait. I know. If I dispel this jutsu we'll find the real Kakashi, the blonde said cleverly. Too bad he isn't here but over in that tree. In a massive puff of ninja-induced smoke all the clones vanished, leaving one Naruto still standing, looking worse for wear. I'm bored of this. If I could challenge Kakashi-sensei at full strength, it would be an awesome fight. I might be lucky to beat him, though it would likely be a close match. Oh. Look at that pretty trap. I know the perfect way to get out of this, the blonde thought as he outwardly snickered. Kakashi-sensei must have accidentally dropped that bell while fleeing my attack, the blonde said loudly enough for his close-by teacher to hear before he moved to grab the bell, only for a robe to snag his ankle and pull him up in the air. Of course that was a trap, Sasuke thought as he frowned. The most disturbing part is that he didn't even once drop his guard in the battle with Naruto, he summed up. Naruto, Kakashi said as he walked out of his spot and bent down to pick up the bell. If the bait is obvious, don't fall for it, he scorned the boy with a frown as he reattached the bell to hang beside the other. You're supposed to look under the underneath, he said cheerfully as he smiled up at the suspended blonde. I know that, the blonde raged as he swung his arms violently. Only an idiot wouldn't wait. Forgot my mask is an idiot. Great, now I'm insulting myself, the blonde inwardly sighed. No. You don't, that is why I'm saying it, the teacher sighed. He's off guard. Now's my chance, Sasuke silently shouted as he withdrew several kunai and shuriken and launched them at their sensei, each on hitting their mark in a fountain of crimson blood. Sasuke! That was overkill, the blonde shouted at his brooding teammate. That poor log, you will be forever remembered, he inwardly said in a funeral-like manner as the bloody corpse of their teacher puffed up in smoke to reveal the pierced log. Kyuso. Substitution again. Now he knows my position. The dark-haired genin inwardly cursed as he raced off in a different direction. He deliberately pretended to be off guard and I fell for it like an armature. Like Naruto. Sasuke. Where are you? Sakura silently whispered as she tore off after her crush, hoping against hope that their teacher hadn't gotten him. A rustle in a nearby tree caught the pink-haired girl's attention, and she stopped to see her sensei. Good, he hasn't seen me. Sakura, behind you, a voice whispered before a rush of leaves and wind struck the girl. With a sigh, Naruto used a kunai to cut himself loose, completely aware of the trap below, though he allowed himself to land in it before being dragged upwards once more. Not again! The blonde yelled in outrage as he fumed where he was hanging. I can't believe he set a second trap below the first. He whined loudly. A dazed look momentarily fell over the pink-haired kunoichi before she shook herself and looked around warily. What was that? Where'd Kakashi go? She asked as she spun on spot. Saw Sakura, a voice behind her mumbled in a rough voice. That sounded like Sasuke-kun, she said as she happily turned around, though his smile vanished as she took in the form of her longtime crush. He was covered in gashes and scratches, various ninja tools embedded deeply in his flesh. His left arm was completely severed and was nowhere in sight, while his left leg was turned at such an angle that it was obviously broken. Sakura help me, he managed to rasp out as more blood poured from his mouth. A look of sheer horror graced the girl's face before she released a head-splitting scream and fell to the ground in a dead faint. Was that too much? Kakashi asked himself from his perch on his branch, as he dispelled the genjutsu. Sasuke tensed where he stood surrounded by trees. Was that Sakura? He quietly asked aloud. That was the second art of the ninja, Kakashi said lazily as he read his book and was leaning comfortably against the tree behind the Uchiha prodigy. Genjutsu, the art of illusion, and Sakura fell for it. I'm not like them, Sasuke said darkly. Save your boasts for when you actually get a bell, Kakashi said with a sigh. The strength of the Uchiha clan, I'm looking forward to see what you can do. He finished as the boy hurriedly charged. A frontal assault, he thought as he dodged the kunai which struck a trip wire. A trap, he thought in mild surprise as he dodged the trap of 10 kunai flying at him, all of which clattered and stuck to a tree. As he landed, he had to bring up his arms to block a kick, and grab the foot before a fist was thrown at him, which he too caught and held. In a consecutive motion, Sasuke used the momentum to spin upside down and aimed a kick at his teacher's head while he was still being held by said jounin. Kakashi brought the arm with the wrist in it up to block, leaving his two arms up, which left his midsections and the bells wide open. Sasuke brought his remaining hand down and just barely brushed his fingertips against one of the bells before the teacher realized what happened and he pushed himself away from the boy. He's not bad, I can't even read my Ika Paradise. Sakura slowly came to and sat up, a hand running through her hair as she blinked in confusion. Oh yeah! Sasuke was dying. Sasuke, don't leave me! She screamed at the top of her voice as she stood to hurriedly search for her crush. Well, I got what I wanted, Naruto thought as he pulled out one of the little bells. I'm surprised he didn't notice when I aimed that punch for him. I switched the bell with a rock on a string, then placed a hinge on it. You did well, brat, you even made yourself look interesting in the eyes of your peers and teacher, Kyuubi said with pride. But tonight is when the real fun starts. I can see our lunches, he exclaimed as he eyed the boxed lunches sitting unattended by the monument rock. I admit you are not like the others, Kakashi admonished as he slipped his beloved book back into his weapons pouch. Sasuke stood smoothly and began forming seals. Katan Gakaku no Jutsu, he said as he inhaled a deep breath. What? No genin should be able to do that technique, it requires way too much chakra, he inwardly exclaimed, though he was wrong, and in one smooth breath the boy lived up to his prodigy title and breathed out a massive breath of flames. They charred along a large path of earth and even melted a hole in the ground. He's gone, Sasuke said to himself as the smoke cleared, causing him to look around. Behind me? Above? Where'd he go? He spun around looking about the area frantically. Below, a voice said, causing the Uchiha to look down just in time to see his teacher's hand shoot up from the ground and grab his ankle. He had no time to fight back before he was pulled down into the ground so that only his head stuck up. The third art of the ninjutsu. Oh well, at least you performed better than the other two, as was expected. Well, you know what they say, the nail that sticks up is the one that gets hammered down, Kakashi said as he walked away, leaving the cursing ninja behind, trapped. Naruto clapped his hands together as he sensed his sensei's arrival. He had a show to put on. Even if I can't take those bells fair and square, I can deal with it. I'll just hang out here and eat everybody's lunches, he exclaimed greedily. Ahem. Kakashi's voice rang behind him. I was just joking, the blonde said in attempted defense. Too late, the instructor said in a happy voice. Sakura ran, eyes darting each and every way. Her only concern was for her beloved Sasuke. She ran into a clearing and froze in her tracks. There before her was Sasuke's head. A look of fear crossed her face. Yak! Sasuke's head has been severed, she screeched before fainting once more. Sasuke blinked. What was that all about? He asked the non-responsive girl before he began to dig himself out of the ground. It took him a good 20 minutes to get out, and once out he sat down beside the passed-out girl who was beginning to stir. Hey, he greeted. Sasuke! She exclaimed as her eyes fully opened and she hurriedly sat up. You're alive! She said as she grabbed him in a tight hug. Yeah, fine, you can let go now, he shouted as he pushed the girl off him and stood up. Time's running out, it's almost noon, he said. Sasuke, do you honestly think you can get one of those bells? She asked as she watched him from her spot on the ground. I touched them, he answered. What? She shouted in shock as she leapt to her feet. Wow! You are so amazing, she said nervously as she clasped her hands together. This is bad. How can I ever get one of those bells? If I don't get one I might be separated from Sasuke-kun, she inwardly worried. There is no more time, I'm sure next time if we give it all we got we can get the bells, she trailed off with a gulp as she saw the glare the Uchiha was shooting her with. Only I can kill him, he said as he turned his back to the girl. Who? Do you mean Kakashi-sensei? She asked curiously. He made me cry, he kept going. You cried? Sakura asked, wondering where this was leading to. A bell cut through the air before the prodigy could continue. Crap! I should have saved my breath, Sasuke said as he began to walk back towards the starting point, the pink-haired girl at his heels in silent contemplation. 10 minutes later found Sasuke and Sakura seated on the ground with Naruto tied to the stump between them. My! Just listen to the rumbling stomachs, Kakashi exclaimed. None of you have to think of returning to the academy, Kakashi said, but was then interrupted by the cheering of the louder two and the pleased smirk of he who broods. As I was saying, you three are hopeless. Not one of you got a bell, nor did you understand the point of this exercise. None of you will ever be ninja, he exclaimed. I'll show him. Naruto inwardly raged and ignored the voiced warnings from the fox. That is where you are wrong, Kakashi-sensei, the genin exclaimed as the ropes slid off of him and he landed with expert ease while shocking the three present. Oh? Please elaborate, Naruto-kun? Kakashi asked as he regarded the student before him. First off, this was a test of teamwork. I would have asked to work with Sasuke, but he'd say I work alone, and Sakura would ignore me in favor of Sasuke. Secondly, look down at your bells, the blonde said as he crossed his arms, causing all three to look at the bells, only to note there was one bell and a rock tied to a string. With wide eyes they all looked back to Naruto, who now held up the bell he had earlier snatched. How did you? Kakashi trailed off, his visible eye wide. Oh, I think I gave way too much away, the blonde demon vessel inwardly winced and purposely ignored the pointed I told you so's coming from the fox. Oh well, I got one of my clones to do that when I snuck up behind you, he explained nervously as he ran a hand over the back of his neck. I should keep a closer eye on him, Kakashi thought. The blonde easily noted his teammates and his sensei's suspicion. It's the same type of prank I did on one of the villagers, he exclaimed. He was a cranky old shopkeeper, so I snagged the keys he carries on him. He spent 4 whole hours trying to get the fake key to open the door, the blonde said smugly, his mischievous smirk in place. I got fooled by the same move he used for a prank? Kakashi thought in embarrassment as he forcefully pushed aside the voice of uncertainty. For now he believed his student's words, but should it happen again? Alright, since Naruto had good points, I suppose you all pass. Your first real mission will start tomorrow. Meet at the bridge for say noon. Ja, Kakashi told them before vanishing once more in his puff of ninja smoke. Sasuke-kun, do you want to go for dinner with me? Sakura almost begged as she turned pleading eyes on the Uchiha prodigy. No, was her curt response as the dark-haired genin stood. Go home, Sakura, he ordered, and noted with satisfaction that she did get up and leave without so much as a question. Like a dog to its master. Naruto, how did you honestly get that bell? Sasuke asked as he narrowed curious eyes on the blonde. He didn't believe the story spun for 1 minute. A fluke? Naruto asked, more than said as he sheepishly scratched the back of his neck. Well, Sasuke team, it has been a blast, but I got to fly. I promised Iruka-sensei I'd make him a late lunch, the blonde shouted as he happily ran off towards the village, leaving the brooding teen alone to his thoughts. Naruto sighed. It was nearly sundown, and he had finally escaped from his beloved teacher's home after being drilled for the details of his first task. It was a bit tiring, but now he felt enervated. It was finally time. He hurriedly prepared himself, clothing and weapons all in place, and as he was about to slip unnoticed from his apartment, a strange sensation tingled through his arm. What the? He asked, his voice the same as normal. The communication device. QB said, causing the blonde to look at the device. Kyo-san? He asked, his voice back in his henge as he looked on at the face of the man that was his supplier. You look kinda squashed on the screen, he commented as he nodded, though his bemused expression was lost with his mask up. I could say the same to you, Kagegas Hoku. The man chuckled in greeting. I would have never pegged you as a blonde though, he commented with a smile. Yeah, not too many would, he agreed, not caring in the least that the man saw his true hair color as he had left the hood down. After all, he did have his mask on. Anyways, I am certain you were wondering why I called you, he said, and received a nod from the blonde. Thought as much. Now, as you will be new to this whole thing, I figured you wouldn't know where to start, so I made you a bingo book of sorts. Kyo began. Now, this bingo book holds all the data of all the evil organizations and all missing means that could prove to be a threat. I figured you'd want to start with a bang, so I figured you may as well take out one of the organizations of Nuknin. There are 3 bigger ones. The first and largest is the Kenryoku Shiaisha. They are a group of 113 missing nin led by 3 powerful warlords. They have 18 fully fortified bases, all of different build and setup, making attacks very difficult. Their primary goal is to gain dominance over all non-ninja villages with fire, water and earth countries. Second is the Kamkarinpa, composed of 43 members of both samurai and missing ninja origins. They are led by a ruthlessly strong samurai named Satsujin Yaiba, and their main goal is to gather all rare and powerful artifacts for a plan that no outside source yet knows. They only have 3 bases, all located in Wind Country. The third and most deadly of the 3, the Akatsuki, is composed of only 9 members, the leader and 8 others who works in pairs. They are the strongest of the S-class missing nins. Led by a man we know nothing of, not even his name. They work solely within the borders of Fire Country, and their goal is to gather the power of all the sealed demons, he concluded. It seems I'll have a group of S-ranked Muknins on my tail soon enough with you inside me, QB. The blonde informed the fox, who merely nodded. I guess that's what you get for having such an incredible creature living in your ramen-filled belly. QB teased as he struck a disturbing pose that would scar many children. Ha ha, real funny, QB, Naruto drawled sarcastically as he rolled his eyes in the fox's general direction. Now Kyo's voice rang through to them, snapping both the teen and the fox back to attention. I'd say you start your first mission by taking out the 2 secondary masses of the Kamkarinpa. Taking down all 3 along with the leader would take too long, and I believe you are likely to have engagements tomorrow. Correct? Yes, Naruto said, a little shocked by how all-knowing his assistant was. Okay. The 2 bases are within a 5-kilometer range of each other, and they are of similar design. The closest to your present location is the Rise base. Here is its blueprints in 3D, he exclaimed as his face disappeared as a hologram projection of sorts popped out of the screen in the shape of a large and well-built fortress. As you can see, it is composed of 5 overground levels and 2 underground levels. The main defense and guards are located on the barricades and first level, very few on the 4 upper levels or the first lower level. The bottom level has rotating guards, as that is their prison area. And yet they do have some innocent captives that you should free before you annihilate the joint, he said with a chuckle. My last report, which came in about 20 minutes ago, stated that they only had 11 prisoners in there. 5 simple village women who were in the wrong place at the wrong time, and 6 men who either owe the organization something or know the whereabouts of certain artifacts, but aren't willing to speak. Naruto scanned the blueprints, taking in all structural bites while analyzing the best course. Alright. The second base is the set base. This one will be a little more tricky, as this is their weapon stronghold, meaning they pack a lot of firepower that could be quite dangerous, though if you destroy the place in one fell swoop you should be fine. And lucky for you there are no prisoners at that base, as it would be too risky with all those fine arms. Here is the blueprint, he said as the current one faded fuzzily, only to be replaced by the image of the second one. I'm sure if there is anything else, you'll find out soon enough. Good luck, Kyo cheered before the hologram vanished and the communicator turned itself off. He left in a hurry, Naruto mumbled. But I suppose I should head out. After all, I have a long night ahead of me, he said before he ran off into the shadows. His new life was about to begin. Well, I've located and freed all the captives, but how the hell should I take that monstrosity out? Naruto silently questioned his companion as he looked on from his position behind a tree at the massive fortress that was one of the 3 bases for the Kamkarinpa. All the prisoners had been set free quite some time ago, and after much thanks they headed off for home, but not before learning the name of their valiant hero, the Kageges Hoku. I think it's time to use one of the techniques I taught you several years ago, Kyubi said with a nod. What? You once told me never to use them if I could be caught performing them. The blonde countered in confusion. True, But that was only for the sake of your mask, and in this line you are no longer the blonde idiot. You are the Kageges Hoku, the shadow assailant. A man or young soon-to-be teen of great power, skill and soon respect. The Kyuubi stated, and his words earned him a nod of understanding. Naruto stood from his stooped position and moved forwards, his hands forming a series of complex seals that no ninja had ever seen before. Shuchu Suru Energy Kasen, 21%. He cried in his henge voice as his hands finished the final seal, which caused his hands to look as though he was picturing something. As the words left his mouth, a blue light shot out from the open-handed seal and shot out in a diluted and scattered wave of pure light which annihilated the enemy base in one fell swoop. As the light dispersed, he brought his hands down, panting hard. That took way more chakra than I expected, he commented in a breathless way as he dropped down to the ground in a sitting position. Before him the impressive hard steel and stone structure no longer stood, and, in its place, was a massive crater. Even a high percent of the forest around had been utterly destroyed, and no rubble remained. Just a smoldering hole still emitting clouds of dust and smoke. True, but that energy beam only contained 21% concentrated power. Just imagine what a full-powered beam of undiluted light would do to your chakra reserves. That is one of the reasons why I didn't let you try it before. Kyuubi explained with a proud note in his voice. I am proud of you, Kit. Thanks, Kyuchan, that means a lot. Naruto said gently as he slowly pushed himself back on his feet. One down, one to go. He said with a sigh as he gazed up at the full moon overhead. I have plenty of time left, but I will have to use it wisely, as there is no way I could just send a destruction beam at the next place. With all the fire power inside, the end result could be catastrophic, he mumbled quietly to himself as he set off once more, though this time in pursuit of the set base. Well, how have all the genins fared in their exams? The Hokage asked the assembled jounin who stood before his desk. All who have passed the team please step forward. He ordered kindly and silently took note of the three who did. Asuma, Kurenai, Kakashi, he said as he nodded to each in turn. The rest are dismissed. Now tell me of your teams, he ordered in a kind tone as he took a long but slow puff from his smoke-emitting pipe. My team, Nara Shikamaru, Yamanaka Ino, and Akimichi Choji had, as predicted, worked well together, doing what the parents who were before them did. They performed admirably. Ino is tough and skilled with the family jutsu, Choji is well versed in using his clan's jutsu, and Shikamaru is extremely lazy, but he is a genius and well practiced with shadows. They failed to retrieve any bells, though I'm certain they will do well, Asuma concluded. My team, Hyuga Hinata, Aburame Shino, and Inuzuka Kiba. Though they each are on opposite ends of the spectrum, they have managed to work together. Shino is the quiet but calculative one of the group, using his insects to their fullest potential. Kiba and Akamaru are the brash ones that provide the muscles and have an excellent sense of scent, which is a given to any of the Inuzuka clan. Hinata is shy and uncertain, though she has the ability of the Byakugan, and is trained fairly well in the family fighting style. They came close to retrieving the bells, and I think they will do well. Kurenai finished. My team, Haruno Sakura, Uchiha Sasuke, and Uzumaki Naruto. They are unable to work as a team. Sakura is pinning after Sasuke, Sasuke is too obsessed with growing stronger to achieve his vengeance, and Naruto is brash. Sakura has great chakra control, Sasuke has a few powerful ninjutsu, and Naruto, well, he's different. Despite their not being able to work as a team, Sasuke nearly managed to get one of the bells while Naruto somehow managed to acquire one. Kakashi summed up and smiled beneath his mask as he was given a look that clearly asked him to elaborate. I'm not sure how he did, as I did not sense nor see it, but he had somehow managed to not only take one of the bells but also attach a rock tied to a string in its place. He said he once did the same thing as a prank to one of the villagers that he wasn't fond of. Also, when I told them how pathetic they were, he told me straight out the purpose of the exam, while also pointing out that his teammates wouldn't have cooperated with him even if he tried. He explained as his eye closed, and it curved in a pleased manner. Strange, the Hokage mumbled as he absently nibbled on his pipe. It is a well-known fact that Naruto was the lowest-scoring student of that class, so I find it rather odd that he was able to do that while no other, not even the number one rookie, had managed it. Perhaps we will chalk this one up to a fluke for now, but Kakashi, I want you to keep a close eye on him, and if you notice anything strange, come speak with me. Sarutobi finished, and the silver-haired jounin nodded his understanding. For now you are dismissed. The third dismissed, and the three jounin nodded before vanishing from the office. Naruto, just what are you hiding? He silently asked as he gazed down at his crystal ball while he fought down a yawn. It was really late, and he should seriously get to bed soon, but first he had some more paperwork to attend to. Being Hokage was tough. What do you think? Will it work? The blonde asked his counterpart, as he warily eyed the set base which made the first fortress look like a little girl's dollhouse. The place was huge, and it was loaded. Hell, he could see the gun and chakra-induced weapons literally seeping out of every corner. There were even mass kunai launchers that could take out an entire army in one go. Yes, those two moves in a combination will be highly taxing, but they should prevent you from blowing half the country apart. The fox responded with a calculative gleam in his crimson eyes. Alright then, Naruto added before he closed his eyes and drew all of his own chakra forth as he began an intricate array of hundreds of hand seals that seemed to blur together with the sheer speed it was being performed with. The seal process took a whole minute and had moved through over 1,000 different seals, stranger seals than any used in the Hidden Leaf Village, even stranger ones than the likes of which he used in the destruction of the other base. Kurappa Mihan Kage-doma! Naruto cried as brilliant blue eyes snapped open. In less than a heartbeat, a dark dome stood where the second base once stood. It looked dark and imposing, much like a gleaming dome of an impenetrable substance. With a steadying breath, Naruto began a whole new set of hand signs while ignoring the sweaty mask that was threatening to fall from his face. Mizu, Tsuchi, Kaze Sutairu, Hariken Sambasaku. He whispered on a silent breath as the attack was focused to go off inside the barrier he had made. The second jutsu was a powerful one, and he had to use a large chunk of the Kyuubi's power to pull it off. Mission complete, Naruto said breathlessly into his communications device. Well done, let me know when you are ready for Mission 2. Kyo's voice responded before the link went dead once more. Naruto, we need a calling card of sorts, Kyuubi commented as the shadow dome receded to leave in its place a larger crater that looked as though someone had taken a spoon and gouged out the area before setting it under the mercy of a mass-powered blowtorch. A calling card, he stated with a confused blink. Yes, something to let everyone know it was you, I know. Leave an ice trinket of sorts, he exclaimed as he smacked his fist loudly against his open palm. Ice, how about my Kagege's Hoka symbol in kanji? Naruto suggested, and his idea was approved with a nod, and so the blonde hurriedly performed a simple freezing jutsu in the middle of the place, leaving the same symbol that was on his back there in never-melting ice. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Naruto murmured as he performed the cross-hand seal, and he sent his clone off to do the same to the other hole in the ground. That was just too easy. Several months flew by and Naruto never once managed to screw up his mask in front of the villagers nor his team as he had before. He did as was normal and usual for him, and soon enough the suspicion of the Jounin, Hokage, and his teammates slowly vanished as they all decided to merely chalk it up as a fluke. Naruto had managed to down those two bases on his first secret life mission, though he had yet to go for the third and final base, but word in the underground was that the organization was out for the blood of the Kagege's Hoka. Rumor had it that the great samurai of a leader himself was on the hunt. During the time that passed, his second self had become famous. He was well known by all his accomplishments, ranging from assassinations to rescues, to rebuilding villages, to demoting powerful but evil businessmen. All in all, he was busy, having met many both friend and foe alike. But now he was sitting on the railing of the bridge, tapping an annoyed finger against his perch. Damn it! Kakashi-sensei should have been here over 2 hours ago. Where the hell is he? The blonde finally snapped, drawing the brooding Uchiha's and the crushing pink-haired fangirl's attention to him. Shut up, Naruto. I'm sick of your complaining. Why can't you be more like Sasuke-kun? Sakura screeched, her voice filled with high-pitched scorn. Yo! Kakashi's voice cut through before an all-out argument could start, drawing all three of them to look at the silver-haired Jounin that had just appeared out of a cloud of smoke. Sorry I'm late. A tsunami flooded my apartment, and I had to dry everything out, he said in way of excuse as he ran his hand through his wild yet almost lazy-looking spiky silver hair. Liar! Naruto and Sakura shouted at the same time. We have a mission, and it's C rank, Kakashi said as he cut to the chase. C ranked? What are we doing? Assassination, protecting a princess, taking out enemy organizations, stopping a war? The blonde asked as he bounced in a hyper manner on the balls of his feet, an excited grin on his tanned features. Nothing of the sort. We are going to be escorting a bridge builder to his home and protecting him from bandits and thugs until the completion of the bridge he is building, he explained with a happy quirk to his visible eye. Meet at the gates at 0700 hours. Bring weapons, clothes, and other such necessities and rations, he said before disappearing in a puff of smoke, leaving the three genin behind. He made us wait that long just for that, the blonde inwardly sighed while he was doing a cheerful dance of sorts for his teammates, though it merely earned him a massive goose egg on his head, courtesy of a certain rabid fangirl. The blonde sighed as he moved towards the door. It was nearly time for them to meet for the mission. Wait a moment, Naruto, Kyuubi called out, causing the boy to stop with his hand outstretched for the door handle. Yeah? He asked curiously. Did I forget something? I think you should bring it, the fox responded with a serious look. It? Oh, He exclaimed as his eyebrows rose in realization of what the Kyubi had said before he turned around and moved to the area where he kept all his secret life items. When am I signing it? The blonde asked as he pulled out a small scroll that had many complicated symbols all over it. Soon. Very soon. The demon answered with a proud note in his voice. Right. Naruto thought with a nod as he secured it in his bag, which just happened to have a secret compartment, one filled with all the items that were necessary to be the Kagegesoku. After all, he who is well prepared is likely to live through the darkest of times. Without any further deeds to be done, the genin left his apartment and happily ran towards the main gates. This would be his first C-ranked mission as a genin of Konoha. He wouldn't fail in this task, he would one day prove his worth. He needed to be prepared, ready and strong for the day that he would become Hokage. He smoothly made his way over the rooftops, cerulean eyes watching the sun rising on the eastern horizon, a peaceful sereness taking over his soul. Konoha is beautiful in the light of the dawning sun, he thought with a small but true smile as he soaked in the silent, and soon to rise, village's beauty. With great resolve he pushed his smile into a grin as he leapt down beside his two teammates. Good morning, Sakura-chan. He greeted happily, before he sent a foxy smile towards the Uchiha who merely ignored the blonde ninja. The pink-haired Kunoichi likewise ignored him in favor of doing her second favorite pastime, Sasuke watching. Her first and foremost favorite pastime being Sasuke stalking. One should always be very fangirls. Yo! The familiar voice of their Jounin sensei quirked up behind them, causing all three to turn around with shocked expressions. You're on time, Naruto said in a breathless voice that was filled with shock as he silently noted the tall and aging man at his instructor's side. This is Tazuna, Kakashi said in introduction while ignoring the blonde's earlier words. He is our client. These are the three genin appointed to your protection, Haruno Sakura, Uchiha Sasuke and Uzumaki Naruto, he said while motioning to each in turn. These brats? The man grumbled before taking a large gulp from his bottle of sake. A corpse couldn't be safe in their hands. I mean, just look at that midget with the idiotic expression, he said in anger. Who's the midget with the Naruto trailed off while inwardly cursing the bridge builder with words that would make even a well-learned sailor blush. Hey! He exclaimed as he noted his teammates beside him, both of which stood taller than him. Why Ata, he said as he moved forward to punch the annoying man, though a hand on his pack stopped him. Now Naruto, we don't attack clients. We protect them. Kakashi chided before slowly removing the grip he had on his small student. Well, he should be respecting me and not insulting me, the blonde stated loudly as they exited the gates. After all, I am Uzumaki Naruto, and one day I will be Hokage, he exclaimed proudly as he leapt up onto a nearby rock and struck a good guy pose. Yeah, right. A kid like you, the bridge builder mumbled absently as they walked on several paces behind the others, occasionally swishing the liquid liquor inside his sake bottle. With an inward roll of his eyes, Naruto took up the rear of their group, keeping highly alert of any and all threats while happily bounding this way and that to take in the sights of the surrounding path. After all, this was his first time out of the village, in the mask he was wearing anyways. Kyubi, we are being watched, the blonde commented to his companion, as he happily grabbed a hold of the straps of his bag with both hands. Two of them, but Kakashi doesn't seem worried, he thought with a sigh. If that puddle isn't obviously off, then I am a rabbit. Kyubi deadpanned as Naruto casually glanced at said puddle, knowing full well that it was a chosen hiding place, but only an idiot wouldn't know that it was a fake. You'd make a funny-looking rabbit, he commented teasingly as he passed by the puddle, seemingly ignoring it while taking note of his teacher falling behind, almost as though he was too preoccupied with that little orange book. He's going for rear defense, the blonde thought in approval, while pretending to pay no attention to the jounin. After the group had passed the puddle by several meters, a head slunk out of its watery depths as one shinobi rose from his hideout, followed by a second who was connected to the first by a large metal chain, hooked onto both of their clawed glaives. Their ninja bands sporting the infamous symbol of Water Country, though they had a visible slash through them, marking them as Nuknin. With no sound, the two sprung forward, and in a flurry of movements, they managed to wrap barbed wire around the jounin instructor, and in one massive heave they sent the bloody remains flying, causing the three genin and bridge builder to turn with a look of fear on their faces, well save Sasuke, who merely looked on in a brooding manner. Kakashi-sensei, Sakura screeched before she drew a kunai and moved to stand in front of the bridge builder. Tazuna-san, I'll protect you, she said more loudly than necessary, hoping to impress the dark-haired genin, who paid her no heed in lieu of ninja before them. Kyubi, what should I do? Fight? I know Kakai-sensei is just going to watch this from his perch in that tree, the blonde said to his companion, while outwardly he looked frozen, causing the two missing nin of the mist to target him with their malicious intentions. In a flurry of movement, the two raced forward, poison claws poised to attack the immobile blonde, who was about to turn around to face the challenge as the QB merely shrugged to his questions. He turned halfway and brought his hands up to protect himself, fully aware of the claw that started to penetrate his hand, though shock took its grip on him as Sasuke came forward and pushed the two back while launching a kunai which trapped their chain to a tree. In a flowing move, Sasuke ran forward and in a great feat of acrobatics he spun in the air, dodging the claws aimed for his torso, and landed in a handstand on top of their glaive claws. Using gravity to his advantage, he let his lower body fall into a smooth but powerful buck kick, nailing both enemies in the jaw, making them fly back as the chain that bound them shattered. Being of Chunin level had its advantages for the two attackers, who used the backwards motion to propel them into a run, both heading separate ways. The first charging the target, Tazuna, while the second aimed for who he thought to be the weakest link, Sakura. In a split second, Sasuke raced forward and placed himself between Sakura, the bridge builder, and the oncoming ninja. "I'm sorry, Naruto," he inwardly thought as he pulled his kunai up while lowering into a defensive stance that he had learnt in the academy. Before anyone could blink, the second Nukenin was punched in the stomach by the silver-haired Jounin, effectively knocking him into a black oblivion before he raced forward and similarly knocked out the other with ease. "Naruto, I'm sorry you got hurt. I didn't think you'd freeze up like that," Kakashi said with audible disappointment as he dropped the unconscious figures to the ground before hurriedly binding them in seals and rope that would prevent any and all forms of escape. "I had to do that to learn their intents. After all, we were hired for thugs and bandits, not ninja," he said in a thoughtful manner as he carefully observed their client. "Are you alright, scaredy cat?" Sasuke said teasingly as he wiped imaginary dust from his hands while casting his blonde teammate a smug look, causing the female genin to fall into admiration mood, eyes filled with pulsing hearts. "Oh, Sasuke-kun," she whispered airily, causing the Uchiha to wince outwardly, and Naruto to cringe inwardly. Fangirls were creepy. The blonde glared darkly at Sasuke before returning his attention to their sensei. "It would seem we should go back. We are not prepared for this. Also, Naruto needs medical treatment, seeing how those claws contain a deadly poison that must be treated quickly," Kakashi explained as he turned a concerned eye to his Jounin sensei. His words caused Naruto to freeze and look at the claw marks on his hand, the blood tainted black with what could only be a poison. The inner fire on, to be exact. "Damn, I need to drain the poison. I can't go back to the village, that would look bad," he thought with a sigh as he noted his teacher asked to speak with Tazuna. The opposition was two Chunin-level Nukenin of the village hidden in the mists, and they are ninja renowned for their willingness to fight until their goal's end has been accomplished, even at the cost of their own lives. Obviously, they were watching and waiting for the perfect chance to strike. They concealed themselves in a puddle even though the sun is out, and we haven't seen rain in many days, meaning there shouldn't be any puddles out, he stated as he silently studied the two bound before him. "If you knew that, then why did you allow them to attack you?" Tazuna asked in curiosity, wondering if all ninja were as crazy as the ones he had thus far met. "I could have killed them at any given point, but I wanted to find out who their real target was," he said before looking back at the aging man from Wave Country. "What does that mean?" the man questioned almost elusively. "If it was truly you they were after, or one of us ninja after all, as I had said, there was no word of shinobi being out to get you. Your request to Hokage-sama was to provide you with an escort that would protect you from average thugs on the road and for the duration of your bridge building. In any case, this mission is more than just a B-ranked mission. To protect you from simple bandits while you are completing your bridge would be simple, but if you expected a ninja assault, then this mission ought to have been ranked differently and left for an elite shinobi to deal with. You may have had your reasons, but it is unwise to conceal such important facts as that when asking for help, as this task falls far beyond the boundaries of the job we were assigned," he concluded. His words caused the pink-haired girl to frown. "There is no way we are good enough for this mission. We will need an anesthetic for Naruto's wound before we can even reopen it to drain the poison. We need to return to the village and have a professional look at it," she said, fear visible in the sweat beading on her large forehead. Kakashi said in a contemplative way. "This is complicated," he mumbled as he looked off at the sky. "No! We can't go back." "I know," the blonde thought in determination. "Do we go back now to make sure Naruto receives proper treatment?" the Jounin asked himself out loud. "Failed. What do you mean you failed?" a short man raged as he leaned heavily on his highly polished cane, his aged face contorted with rage as he glared at the relaxed man before him through his expensive designer sunglasses. "I paid for the best. It wasn't cheap either, and you failed?" he continued as he brought his dominate hand up to point in an angry gesture towards he who had failed him. "I wouldn't have paid for your skills had I realized you to be this weak." An impassive man looked down from his relaxed position on the couch before he swung his massive broadsword forward in a great swing, causing the rich man to widen his eyes in fear and his two goons that were hired bodyguards to tense up. With a determined look, Naruto drew a clean kunai knife from his weapon's pouch and he stabbed himself in his wounded hand before painfully twisting the blade within his skin before pulling it out in a shower of crimson and black-tainted blood. The two other genin, Jounin and the bridge builder, all looked at the blonde with varying degrees of shock on their faces. I'm different. I know that, but still I had not fitting in and being an outcast amongst all those I care for. The blonde inwardly cried while the fox merely gave his vessel the room to vent properly. Naruto! Stop! What are you doing? Sakura yelled. I've trained long and hard, I've worked for all that I have. I can't be weak, I must be strong even in my mask. I once swore that no one would ever have to save my life again and I'll stick to it. I will not be pushed aside and labeled as weak. I will not be outdone by anyone. I swear it by the pain in my left hand. He silently vowed before locking intent eyes onto the people watching him with concern. On this bloodied kunai knife, I pledge to protect the old man. Uzumaki Naruto ready and reporting for duty, he said with a confident smirk on his intense features. Stop whining! A sharp voice cut through the tense air. With this mighty neck-cleaving blade of mine I will take out the target. He concluded as he glared down his arm towards the man that stood trembling with the tip of his blade to his neck. Hey, are you sure you want to? The man asked as his eyes darted between the blade tip towards his throat and the man wielding it. They do have ninja of tremendous skill, and since the demon brothers failed their attempt they will likely be on guard for further attempts. Remember who you are talking to. The sword holder snarled darkly, his mouth set in a thin line which wasn't seen through the bandages hiding his mouth from view. I am Momochi Zabuza, the demon of the mist. He explained with a predatorial look in his brown eyes. Naruto, that was really cool and all, but if we don't stop the blood flow you might bleed to death. Kakashi said in amusement, pleased with the progress his student was making. He silently approached the frozen, wide-eyed genin. Oh, that might have been a little overkill for my mask, he inwardly said with a giant sweat drop. Time to fix that what? I'm too young to die. He exclaimed woefully as he drastically waved his arms around while going on and on about how he had to live to be Hokage and beat that stupid bastard. Let me see your hand. Kakashi said in a gentle manner as he pulled out a roll of bandages and began to bind the already mending wound. He is alright healing, could this be because he has the Kyuubi in him? He silently thought with a serious expression, though it was only his eye that was visible. Kakai-sensei? Am I going to live? The blonde asked, his blue eyes searching the man before him. You have a really serious look. He elaborated as his instructor looked up and locked eyes with him. You'll be just fine. I was just thinking, he said with a happy quirk to his eye as he stood and turned to regard the other three. Let's get going. We have a mission to complete. I have something I need to tell you all, Tazuna stated as he looked down at the ground, his empty hand clenched in a fist. Many hours later found the group sitting in a small boat as a man led them across the water through a thick fog. Wow, this is some seriously thick fog, Sakura said, earning her captain obvious points. We'll be able to see the bridge in just a moment. It is nearly halfway complete, their guide stated as he looked around the water with weary eyes. On the other side of it is Nami no Kuni, the land of waves. Silence fell over the group once more before something slowly was coming into view. After a few minutes a massive bridge was revealed towering over them with its immense structure. Holy! That's huge! The blonde genin exclaimed with his eyes wide in shock. Hey, keep it down! Their guide hissed darkly, a look of panic on his weathered features. This mist may hide us from sight, but that won't stop us from being heard. That is why I have been paddling instead of using this motor, he explained with a cautious glance behind them. We'd be in deep trouble as Gato found us. Kakashi frowned in thought as he recalled the conversation they had earlier when Tazuna had revealed much about their current predicament. Gato wants him dead so that the bridge will never be completed, which would allow him to keep his wealth. If I remember correctly, he is a multi-billionaire in the field of marine transport. The man who is supposedly the richest man in the world. The silver-haired Jounin sighed as he looked over at his team. We will have to be wary. Gato will send a stronger foe as he is no doubt desperate to stop the completion of the bridge. We'll be there soon, the man stated as they passed through a canal of sorts before coming out into what looked like a lake with mangroves evergreens that grew on shorelines covering the shores of the land before them. They had arrived. Thank you, Tazuna whispered to their helper as they docked on a nearby dock, and everyone save the man who was their guide got off, leaving the man to leave with several strokes of his oar. The town was in poor shape. The buildings were in dire need of repair, and the people wandering the streets were thin with sad expressions on their faces. Not even the children's laughter could be heard. It was a tough time. Kyubi, I want to help them. Naruto thought sadly as he watched a small child beg Sakura for some candy, which she gladly gave the boy. I want them to smile. They hurriedly moved from the outskirts of the town and onto a tree-covered path which was supposed to lead to Tezuna's home. There's something here, or more precisely someone, Naruto told the Kyubi as he narrowed his blue eyes and withdrew a kunai. Yet Kakai-sensei doesn't seem to notice. He fisted the kunai before spinning taut. He sighed. There! He shouted as he released the mini blade. The dull thunk of a knife striking wood sounded through the air. Substitution, he thought with a sigh. I guess it must have been a mouse, he mumbled to himself as he ran a hand over the back of his neck in a show of mock embarrassment. You moron! Are you out of your mind? Sakura screeched. There was nothing there. Please don't play around with your weapons. They can be a tad bit dangerous, Kakashi said with a major sweat drop visible as he eyed his young genin. Don't go scaring us, you midget, Tezuna yelled as he held his hand to his heart. Stop messing without heads, he added as an afterthought, clearly not pleased that he had an idiot of a protector who would likely wind up getting him killed. I think I might have seen someone, he muttered under his breath, ignoring the yelling directed at him. A rustling noise cut through the air and he turned and launched yet another kunai knife, but in the opposite direction. The ninja tool struck the wood of a tree just above the head of a petrified white rabbit. Oops, I think I scared one of your relatives, Naruto teased. Haha, very funny, Kit Kyubi mumbled with a glare which was directed to a certain blonde ninja who he just happened to live inside of. Oh no! Poor little bunny! Naruto cried in shock as he raced over to the seemingly comatose rabbit. Substitution again, obviously. Only an idiot wouldn't realize that white rabbits aren't around this time of year, making it an indoor pet of sorts, breed for battle alone, he thought with a sigh. Please snap out of it, he said as he cuddled the soft creature to his chest. That is a snow hare. It is spring and it should not sport its winter coat. After all, the fur of snow hares change color with the seasons. Winter they are as white as the snow, while in summer they are of darker pelts, ranging from browns to blacks. Meaning that one has been kept as a pet indoors where there is little to no sunshine. This is it, Kakashi summed up as he glanced off to the side as a bead of sweat formed on his face near his visible eye. In the bushes stood a figure who held a massive broadsword in his hand as he studied the group before him. From what I can tell, this group isn't on par with the Demon Brothers, but their leader is from Konoha, and he isn't just any ninja. He is Hitaki Kakashi of the Sharingan Eye. This will be fun, Zabuza thought devilishly before he launched his sword towards the group. The blade cut through the air, spin dangerously towards the travelers. Duck! Kakashi ordered, and was pleased to note that no one had to be told twice as they all hit the dirt to avoid being beheaded by the sharp projectile. It whirled dangerously before coming to a halt as it embedded itself in a thick tree trunk in a spot about halfway up the abused tree. Zabuza leapt and landed upon the surface of his blade and looked down at high prey below. That guy looks familiar. Both Kakashi and Naruto thought simultaneously, though the other was none the wiser of that fact. Momochi Zabuza, traitor ninja to the land of the waves, Kakashi said as he moved his hand in front of his blonde student to quell his actions as the boy looked ready to pounce. Don't, Naruto, Kakashi stated, not wanting the boy to get hurt. Leave him to me, he is out of your league. I think I will have to use it for this battle, he thought with a sigh as he moved his gloved hand up to grasp his forehead protector in a suspense-filled moment. This may get dirty, he mumbled, putting on a decent show, causing everyone to look on in anticipation of the trump card to come. Copycat Kakashi of the Sharingan, Zabuza said in confirmation as the silver-haired Jounin revealed the crimson eye with the trademark komas in their depth. The ninja who has copied over 1,000 jutsu, he finished in smirk as he noted the amazed looks on the group below. The Sharingan, but that is the bloodline of the Uchiha, Naruto thought with a small frown. How? The mirror wheel eye, could he? Sasuke looked on, his dark eyes wide with shock at the possibilities that were placed out before him. Assume the Manji formation, Kakashi ordered his team as he lowered his arm and listened to his team hastening to obey. It is an honor to see that eye of yours so early into our confrontation, Zabuza chuckled. But wouldn't it be easier on all for you to simply hand the old man over? He questioned, though he already knew the answer. Sharingan? What the hell is a Sharingan? Naruto demanded as he looked pointedly at his sensei, even though he knew all the data on said bloodline limit. Those who have the Sharingan eye, Sasuke began drawing his teammates, and the bridge builder's attention to him, have a mastery of an ocular form of ninjutsu, one that enables them to penetrate and see beyond the reality of illusions or spells. Also, those who have the ability can copy any ninjutsu they see save for bloodline ones, Sasuke summed up. Indeed, when I was still with the Mist, we had a bingo book containing data on all of our known enemies, and there was an extensive write-up on you. It told of your legendary ability which allowed you mastery over 1,000 or so jutsu, earning you the name Kakashi of the Mirror Eye. Zabuza said in approval, pleased with the challenger before him. He'd get a good workout with the Jounin as his opponent. The Sharingan is a rare gift, one that is said to only lie within those of Uchiha blood. Could he possibly be related? Sasuke silently questioned as he eyed his instructor. The time for pleasantries has passed. I'm on a tight schedule to finish the old man off. Zabuza smirked as he narrowed his eyes, having grown bored of all the talk and no action. But first it seems I'll have to deal with you, Hatake Kakashi. In a swift leap, the demon of the mist jumped from his sword, grabbing its handle in the process, and pulled it from the wood as he landed on top of the water of a nearby lake, causing everyone to turn their attention towards the nuke of water. He's standing on water! Sakura exclaimed, her mouth hanging wide while her eyes bugged out of her sockets. I thought that only happened in movies, she added after regaining control over her facial features. While Sakura was blathering pointlessly, Zabuza rose his right hand to his lips in a silencing motion, while putting his left as high as it could go, thumb, index and middle finger in the air. Clever bastard, Kakashi inwardly winced. He built up a high concentration of chakra, Naruto commented with a shrug. Specialty ninjutsu of Kirigakure. Zabuza murmured as he was engulfed in a thick shroud of mist which covered the playing field. He's gone! Naruto yelled as he tensed, blue eyes darting each and every way. He's in that tree, but oh! He will come after me first, Kakashi concluded. He is after all Momochi Zabuza of the Kirigakure Assassin's Corps, a well-known master of the art of silent killing. He thought silently, taking inventory of all things around that could be used as an advantage. Do not let your guards down, that would be like signing your own death certificate for a one-way trip to hell or heaven. I haven't mastered all there is to the Sharingan, so all of you stay cautious. There are 8 targets. The voice of Zabuza drifted into them, seemingly coming from all directions. Throat, spinal column, lungs, liver, the jugular vein, the subclavian artery, kidney and the heart. Each vulnerable and lethal points on the average human body. Which should I strike first? He said in a dark voice which would cause many to flee in terror, though those present merely tensed at the intimidation tactic. Kakashi looked around before dropping into a battle stance, allowing the block on his killer intent to vanish. The air seemingly grew thick and the genin could feel the murderousness coming from their teacher in potent waves. This bloodthirst, Sasuke thought wide-eyed. It is the intensity of bloodlust, pure unadulterated bloodlust from a battle of the elite. If I move or even blink, he'd kill me. I can feel it. I can't stand this. I'm going to lose it. I hate knowing my life is in their hands. Almost wanting to commit suicide just to end the suspense. Sasuke inwardly spoke, shaken up by such dark feelings. Sasuke. Kakashi's voice cut through the Uchiha's mind, causing him to halt the kunai he had been bringing up as though he was going to use it to end his miserable life. Calm down. The Jounin continued soothingly. Even if he gets me, I'll still protect you, he added before turning his scared eye towards him. I will never let my comrades die, he said with his happy smile in place. I wouldn't bet on that. Zabuza cut in as he suddenly appeared behind the genin, and before the bridge builder, having passed through their defense formation with ease. Game over, he shouted as he pulled his sword in a wide arch swing, one that would sever all the genin's torsos from their legs. In a blue of speed, Kakashi of the Mirror Eye rushed forward, his kunai knife in hand. He pushed past his genin and rammed his weapon into the ninja's stomach, successfully halting the assault that would have likely killed the children had he not made it there in time. A dark chuckle was heard behind the silver-haired Jounin, causing him to turn around just as the man he stabbed turned into water. Water clone, he thought, though he was unable to move fast enough as Zabuza brought his blade sweeping towards him, successfully cleaving Kakashi in two. Aya! Sakura screeched as she brought her clenched fists up to her chest, fear visible on her features. He's a ninja, an elite one at that. Of course he isn't dead. It's a clone, water style, Naruto thought with a sigh. For someone who had the highest intellect level in their graduating year, she really was an idiot. Just as he thought that, the two separate pieces of Kakashi tumbled into water. A water clone. He was able to copy me in this mist? Zabuza asked silently as he looked around, eyes wide, and before he could move he felt a blade being pressed to his neck, causing him to freeze up. Don't move, Kakashi warned as he put a little more pressure on the man's neck, causing a small cut to appear, staining a small spot on the bandages around the man's neck and face. As you said, game over? Kakashi said while glaring at the nuke Nin. Awesome! Naruto cheered with a smile over his face while Sakura started to giggle happily that she wouldn't die in this battle. You think this is over? Zabuza asked in clear amusement. You just don't seem to get it. It will take more than copying my moves to defeat me, a lot more. But I do admit you are good, he concluded as he peered over his shoulder at the man who held the blade to his neck. In a matter of seconds you managed to duplicate my water clone jutsu, then you made said clone say that sappy junk that you would have said yourself. By doing that you ensured my focus would be on that clone of yours, while you hide using the Kirigakure technique for hiding in the mist, where you could watch my every move. Too bad for you, the man before him said. I am not that easy to fool. A second Zabuza sneered as he appeared behind Kakashi. The ninja of the mirror will I plunged his kunai knife through the clone's neck, causing it to splash into a water puddle, while he turned around to face the real Zabuza, who was bringing his sword in a wide arch horizontal swing towards him. Zabuza was a water doppelganger too, Naruto exclaimed as he watched his sensei drop to the ground in a cat-like sprawl, successfully evading the sword which continued to swing as it had nothing to halt its momentum. Though as it reached a point behind the mist Nin, he jammed it into the ground before bringing his foot up in a powerhouse kick. His foot connected with the Jounin's right ribs and sent him flying backwards. Zabuza, seeing an opening, pulled his sword from the ground and rushed forward, only to stop just in the nick of time to avoid stepping on the Makibashi that Kakashi had purposely dropped as he sailed by. With a loud splash, the silver-haired Jounin crashed into the water head first. Foolishness, Zabuza said with an almost happy tone. Sensei, Naruto shouted as he took a half-step forward. How did he get knocked that far? Sakura asked herself. His physical abilities are incredible, Sasuke silently complimented as he squinted his eyes towards the water. This water is so dense, Kakashi thought as he resurfaced, his wild hair wet and dangling more than usual. Gullible fool, Zabuza said with a smirk as he appeared behind the Jounin, standing on the water, his hand flying through seals. Sura no Jutsu, he said, and before Kakashi could even react he was encased in a swirling sphere of water, unable to move, though this technique also made Zabuza unable to attack his students as his hand had to be partially inside the sphere. I thought I could go underwater and regroup. That was a tactical error. The silver-haired sensei inwardly cringed at his blunder. You're trapped and there is no way out. After all, your running around is interfering with my mission, but don't worry, I'll finish you off later once I'm through with the others. Miza Bunshin no Jutsu, he said as he formed a one-handed seal, causing a clone of himself to rise from the water in an eerie way. I knew he was good, but not this good, Kakashi inwardly exclaimed as his eyes widened at the sight before him. Pathetic excuses for ninja. The Zabuza clone chuckled as he stepped from the water onto land, eyes glaring at the young genin. You try so hard to fit in, but you aren't worthy to wear those hitate. A true ninja is one who has crossed and recrossed the border between the living and the dead. Clothing and weapons don't make the ninja. You need skills that make you worthy enough to be in my bingo book before you are deemed worthy to be a ninja. We don't call your kind ninja, we call them. The clone trailed off as he vanished from sight, only to reappear before Naruto, who he then kicked with such force that his forehead protector fell to the ground in front of the clone's feet. The blonde was sent skidding backwards, blood flowing from his mouth from the initial blow and the added impact. He landed in a crumpled heap, not even hearing his teammates' concerned words. Everyone listened carefully. Kakashi called out from within his prison. Take Tazuna and run. This is a fight you cannot win. If he wants to keep me in this water prison, he can't leave this place, and his water clones can't go beyond a certain distance from his real body, or they will fall apart. So get out of here, he ordered as his eyes lingered on his injured student. Naruto slowly sat up, his blonde spikes falling in his eyes as he looked up at Zabuza. QB, we fight. I won't break my mask, but I'll pull something off that would look believable for a dobe like my mask, he thought in determination as his eyes moved over from his still bandaged hand to his hitate that the mist clone was stepping on. A determined light shone in the blonde's eyes as he shakily stood on his feet, his eyes promising a world of pain for the Nukenin. With a battle cry he lunged forward, ignoring everyone's protests at such a foolhardy action. As he got within range he was launched backwards by a powerful punch, sending him in a rough tumble. What were you thinking tackling him by yourself? You think you're cool, but genin-leveled ninja like us can't take him, Sakura admonished in a loud screech. Eh? She asked as she noted her teammates slowly getting up. In the blonde's hand was his hitate. He did that just to get his forehead protector back? Kakashi thought with a strange light in his eyes. Hell, what's life like without eyebrows, you freak? Naruto asked, his gaze looked on the ground. I have a new listing for your bingo book. He who will be Hokage of the village hidden in the leaves, he began as he retied his headband back on, is Uzumaki Naruto. Believe it, he said as he looked up with a fox-like grin on his features. Naruto? Kakashi leaned forward in his prison. This kid has guts, and I thought he was just a loudmouthed idiot, Tazuna thought with respect in his eyes as he looked on at the blonde ninja. Sasuke, listen up. I have a plan, Naruto stated as he looked over his shoulder at his male teammate. Time to try some teamwork then? Sasuke said with a chuckle. Strange, I feel so this Naruto is so, Sakura thought as she stared at the blue-eyed ninja. Okay. Let's get to it, Naruto said with a smirk as he looked back at the Zabuza clone. Hey, you are pretty sure of yourself, the clone commented. But do you honestly think you stand a chance against me? Damn it, Kakashi inwardly cursed. I thought I told you to run. It was over the moment he caught me, and you three still have a mission to accomplish, so leave, Kakashi shouted out at them, his voice sounding distorted by the water prison. Gramps? Naruto asked as he cutely tilted his head to the side to regard the man. What? I know I got us all into this mess by lying about the details of this mission, and I have lived a long life. I have no right to put you all in danger, so go, save your sensei, Tazuna said with a small but honest smile. Sasuke smiled smugly as he looked over at Naruto. So that settles that. You ready? He asked the blonde, all the while smirking. Apparently you don't care to live long enough to grow old, the clone said with amusement. You are merely playing ninja, a child's game. When I was your age I had already dyed my hands with the blood of my foes, the Zabuza clone stated as he looked as he calloused hands, his words causing the young ones to gulp. The demon Zabuza, Kakashi stated. It would seem my reputation had preceded me, the real Zabuza said while chuckling. Long ago, in the village hidden in the mist, also known as the village of the Bloody Mist, the final stage before becoming a full-fledged ninja was an inhumanly difficult test, Kakashi explained. So you have heard of our graduation exercise, Zabuza commented as he looked at the silver-haired jounin. Graduation test? Sakura asked in curiosity, her question causing their enemy to laugh. It was a kind of killing spree amongst classmates, he said darkly. Students who were friends, those who ate from the same dish. As undergrads they were divided into pairs and were forced to fight against each other to the death. Imagine comrades who have lived together, eaten together, lived together, shared each other's hopes and dreams, he concluded with a sadistic smirk that was hidden behind his bandages, but the dark light was visible in his eyes. 10 years ago, the Council of Elders in the Mist Village were forced to enact a sweeping reform of their barbaric graduation ritual because of the appearance the previous year of a human fiend who made reformation essential. Kakashi began. What kind of reformation? Sakura asked nervously. What did the fiend you spoke of do? Without a moment's hesitation, without a single qualm, a boy who hadn't even yet qualified as a ninja butchered over 100 members of that year's graduating class, their instructor concluded. Ah yes, the good old times. They were so much fun, Zabuza said with a demented look in his eyes before he looked over at Naruto and Sasuke, focusing his killer intent at the two, causing them both to flinch. In a blur the clone raced forward and nailed Sasuke in the stomach with his elbow, sending the boy flying only to be stopped mid-flight by a downward fist to his stomach, driving him to the ground and winding him. With a cry of pain, blood flew from the Uchiha's mouth as he closed his eyes. Sasuke! Sakura screeched worriedly while Kakashi merely tensed as sweat beaded on his face. Time to die, Zabuza clone stated as he placed his foot on the downed boy's stomach and placed pressure on it. Sasuke! Kage Bunshin no Jutsu! Naruto yelled as he placed his hands in the cross-like seal. In a puff of ninja smoke that threatened to devour the entire area, a good 30 or so shadow clones appeared, all smirking the same smirk, all directed towards Zabuza, who looked on in shock. Doppelgangers, eh? And quite a lot of them, to Zabuza said in approval. Maybe this would be a slightly bigger challenge than he had first thought. Every Naruto withdrew a kunai knife as they smirked on at the man before him, who removed his foot from his teammate, who was slowly drawing himself away from the enemy. Ready or not? All of them cried out before they all went airborne, landing in a dome of Naruto, successfully encasing the demon of the mist's clone inside a pyramid. Chuckling escaped the prison as the clone grabbed his sword and swung it in a complete circle, sending every Naruto sailing. Incredible! Just when I thought they had a chance of downing that monster, Tazuna thought while silently wondering if they would even survive this encounter. All the Naruto clones burst into smoke as the original removed his backpack from his shoulders and brought it in front of him as he skidded to a halt, his hand inside his bag. This should work as long as Sasuke plays along, Naruto thought as he pulled out a weapon and tossed it over to the Uchiha. Sasuke! He shouted, making sure he had the other boy's attention. Sasuke reached up and caught it, his eyes narrowing slightly. So that's your plan, he thought as he opened the weapon up to its full form, revealing it to be a demon windmill shuriken. Fuma shuriken. Windmill of shadows. He exclaimed as they brought the weapon up so that it hit all but the top left side of his face. Shuriken are useless against me, Zabuza stated as he and his clone observed the dark-haired boy leap into the air in a graceful spin before launching the weapon in a spinning blow. Though the man was shocked as the weapon veered off to the side of the clone. At least you have sense to aim for my true body, Zabuza commented as he watched the approaching weapon. With little to no effort he plucked the oncoming weapon out of thin air with his remaining hand. Amateur, he muttered before his eyes widened as he saw a second Fuma shuriken headed towards him. A second hidden in the shadow of the first. The man exclaimed. With a smile the ninja jumped over the flying weapon as a little girl would her jump rope, causing the weapon to flail off into the distance over the water. Still an amateur, he said while glaring at the children. He dodged it, Sakura thought desperately. As Sasuke said with a smirk. A pop behind the man caused him to peer over his shoulder in time to see the weapon engulfed in a puff of smoke, revealing the blonde ninja who had a kunai in hand. Everyone save Sasuke looked on in shock at this tactic as Naruto launched his kunai towards Zabuza with deadly accuracy. Having no other option, Zabuza pulled his hand from the water prison, successfully dodging the weapon, but at the same time causing his water prison to be released, freeing the silver-haired jounin. That little runt! Zabuza thought in rage as he spun around preparing to launch the shuriken he had in his hand towards the blonde who was falling fast to the water. Just as he was about to release it, one of the blades struck something causing blood to fly. It was Kakashi. He had put up his metal-plated gloved hand and blocked the attack to protect his student from the deadly blow. Naruto landed with a large splash. Damn, if Kakashi hadn't stopped him I'd have had to break my cover if I planned on living, he inwardly winced as he resurfaced, greedily taking in air. Kakashi slowly brought his face up and glared venomously at his opponent. That was too close, he thought as he knocked the shuriken from the man's hand, causing it to fly off and disappear into the mist. Kakashi-sensei! Sakura squealed happily. That was brilliant, Naruto. All of you have matured. The silver-haired jounin complimented as he looked at the mist ninja who, like himself, was standing on the water. My Kage Bunshin wasn't meant to take Zabuza down, its purpose was to divert his attention from Sasuke and my true self while I transformed into the second windmill shuriken. I didn't think that my plan would take him down, but that wasn't my goal. I was aiming to rescue you, Kakashi-sensei. The blue-eyed fox vessel explained as he bobbed happily in the water. You made me fly into such a rage that I dropped my jutsu, Zabuza said in an attempt to preserve his ego. No! You didn't drop it, you were forced to drop it, otherwise you'd be one arm short, and I would still have been freed, Kakashi said. Just so you know, the same trick won't work twice on me. Your move. Zabuza snarled before he leapt backwards, Kakashi likewise following the action, landing the same distance away. The mist nukenin began forming seals and Kakashi likewise did the exact same seals at the same time as his enemy. Suiton Suryuden no Jutsu. They both cried simultaneously as two massive water dragons rose up from the water and began to do battle above and around the two ninja. We are being watched, Naruto said as he focused on staying above the water as massive waves reaped the water into a chaotic state. I sense it too, Kit. And I'd say it is the enemy, perhaps an ally of the demon of the mist? The fox suggested before once more falling silent. So many hand seals, katas, performed so quickly, and yet Kakashi-sensei had managed to mirror them all at the same instance, as Zabuza Sasuke thought in amazement, as water splashed all around them despite being on land. Zabuza and Kakashi both leapt forward in a clash of weapons as water continued to pour down around them as their dragons likewise clashed, mauling each other to death, figuratively speaking, that is. Something isn't right, Zabuza thought with a frown as he and his adversary continued to parry blows, either gaining nor losing. A stalemate of sorts. He scowled before pushing back, his battle partner do the same. The two began running in a circle, either getting closer to the other, as they matched their pace. On a split second the mist nin and Kakashi slid to a halt, and both raised their arms into the seal needed for the mist technique of Kirigakure. Zabuza stared into Kakashi's red eye, watching the spinning komas. All my moves and gestures he sees. Through them all. Kakashi finished the ninja's thought out loud for him, causing his eyes to widen. Is he reading my mind? Curse him. He has. That sickeningly evil look in his eyes. Kakashi finished for him again as he and Zabuza simultaneously moved into the same seal, their dragons having long since destroyed each other. Fei, you are a pale imitation. Zabuza began. I'm the original, no mere copycat stands even a ghost of a chance against me. Kakashi and Zabuza said at the same time in the same tone. Stop mimicking me like a foolish monkey! Zabuza snarled in rage as he began a set of handsells, pissed that the man before him was doing the same. He frozen momentarily as he saw what looked like himself standing beside his enemy. It's me? He silently asked as his eyes grew wide. It must be an illusion, he thought before a voice cut through. Suetun Daibakufu no Jutsu, Kakashi stated as he finished a seal, causing a massive horizontal cyclone to appear before him, moving with great velocity towards the Miss Nin. What? Zabuza thought in shock. He used the very ninjutsu I had planned on using before I could even do it. I can't keep up with him. All thoughts were smashed to a halt as he was plunged backwards by the raw attack that struck him face on. Meanwhile, Naruto struggled out of the ragging water and onto shore panting heavily. Note to self, when Kakashi fights on water against the water using ninja, don't hang around in the water, he thought with a sigh as he looked on at the destructive path the water was making. The attack slowly died down and the mist ninja was plunged bodily against the study tree, his breath being knocked out of him, and before he could even regain his bearings 6 kunai were flung at him, each hitting their mark. 2 to his shoulders, 2 to his lower arms, and 2 to his legs. On the weapon's impact, Zabuza cried out in pain while Kakashi landed smoothly on a branch in the tree that Zabuza was against. Can you see the future? The injured man asked as he peered up at the copycat ninja who had earned his name well. Yes, he answered with a happy quirk to his eyes, causing Zabuza to look horrified. I foresee your death. Kakashi finished darkly as he pulled out a kunai, but before he could move, 2 saban needles impaled the man through the neck, causing him to collapse dead. All the genin blinked in shock while Kakashi eyed the young hunter ninja who had just appeared beside the lifeless corpse. Your predication came true, the figure said happily. Thank you for your help. I hope you didn't mind my intrusion, but I wanted the satisfaction on ending Zabuza's life myself, he said with a little bow of his head towards the silver-haired ninja who had just jumped down and checked the man's pulse, double-checking that he was indeed dead. Your mask is a familiar one. Correct me if I'm wrong, but are you a hunter from the village hidden in the mist? Kakashi inquired as he eyed the boy who had to be even younger than Naruto, who was his youngest student. Correct, the hunter answered in amusement. A hunter? Naruto asked aloud, sounding as though he knew nothing of such a person. As a hunter, it is my duty to hunt down and eliminate all rogues and outlaws. Your battle is over for now, he said before pausing to kneel down beside the body, his words suspicious to any who listened closely enough. I must take my leave, I have remains to dispose of to preserve our secrets, he concluded before vanishing in a swirl of leaves, taking Zabuza's cooling body with him. Crap, Zabuza is still alive, and he has a pretend hunter on his side. Naruto inwardly winced. After all, hunters always finish off their targets on sight, Naruto thought with a sigh, knowing that they would have another encounter with the man sometime in the near future. We'll just have to decide before that happens, Kyubi said with a smirk. But for now I think we had best hurry to our destination. Well, we have to continue to escort Zabuza-san, Kakashi said as he pulled his headband back down over his Sharingan eye. Just as the words left his mouth, Kakashi suddenly collapsed to the ground, leaving everyone to blink in confusion. Kakashi-sensei. Alright guys, now we will be working on your chakra control, Kakashi said as he leaned lightly on his crutches. What's chakra again? Naruto asked as he ran a hand over the back of his neck. Like anyone could be stupid enough to forget one of the fundamental bases to being a ninja, he added with a sigh. This is so not good, almost as bad as Zabuza still being alive, Kakashi inwardly sighed as he looked over at Sakura and gave her the go-ahead to explain the thing, which she did while he thought over all he had told his students after having woken up. He honestly couldn't believe how foolish he was to believe that the boy was a real hunter nin. He knew that they disposed of bodies on spot, making that the obvious flaw in the story. He'll come when he'll come, I just hope we're ready, he thought as his female student finished her explanation. Now a true ninja has complete mastery over their chakra, and can use it without a second's thought. How do you do this, you ask? Simple, you climb trees, he stated with a happy quirk to his eye. Without hands, he added after noting their confused looks. How? Sakura deadpanned as she regarded their instructor as though he was short several screws. Like this, he said happily as he walked over to the tree, using his clutches with practiced ease, and he stepped onto the tree before walking up the vertical plant, using only his feet and the support of his crutches. He walked until he was several meters over their heads before he moved to the underside of a large branch. Just remember to focus your chakra into your feet, making sure it is a balanced amount. Too much and you will be propelled off the tree, too little and you'll slip right off, he explained. If you can master this, no jutsu should be beyond you, he said, smiling down at his amazed students. Now, He began as he withdrew 3 kunai knives from his pocket and launched them down at the 3, each striking a few feet before one of the students. I want you to use those kunai to mark your progress up the tree, but I do not expect any of you to do it on your first try. Your goal is to get higher and higher every time. Perhaps a running start would be of use, he suggested. Great, purposely failing at this will be difficult unless that's it. Naruto thought as he and his teammates each plucked up a kunai before eyeing 3 separate trees. Ready or not, here I come. The 3 genin raced forward. Sasuke, he ran to his tree and up several paces before he felt the bark beneath his feet give way. In a hurried move, he scratched a mark in the tree before being propelled backwards into a flip before landing with cat-like grace. Naruto ran and took 1 step before falling flat on his head, while Sakura made it onto a high branch. Well, that was easy. She gloated, hoping for Sasuke to give her approval. It would seem the female member of our team has the best chakra control, Kakashi commented. Meaning you get guard duty with Tazuna and I, he said with a smile before looking over at the 2 males. You 2 will stay and practice until you have it down, he ordered happily as he motioned for Sakura to follow him back to the bridge builder's home. Hours had trickled by and Naruto had only slightly improved, whereas Sasuke had mastered it. The sun was preparing to descend over the horizon as the Uchiha took his leave back towards Tazuna's home, inwardly pleased that at least he had beaten the dobe to the top.